Chapter 201. Dark energy destroys the enemy leader. Tianding International Hotel, Fitness Center. In the soothing music, Huang Jiani, dressed in tight yoga clothes, slowly stretched her body on the yoga mat. Her buttocks were raised, outlining a round and firm shape, her upper body bent low, revealing a pale and full hemisphere. She carried an elegant and graceful air, like an orchid, her ordinary looks imbued with charm. Nothing like a 40-year-old woman. At this moment, countless men were stealing glances at her. Huang Jiani smirked with a hint of naughtiness, meticulously completed the set of movements, and stood up with her hips swaying from side to side, drawing even more attention. She was someone who placed great emphasis on body management, but what allowed her to play Li's Haihang, Li Lei's father, like a fiddle was her extremely high emotional intelligence. Approaching the floor-to-ceiling window, Huang Jiani took out her phone, snapped a picture of the night view, and sent it to Li's Haihang with a fresh and innocent message. My departure doesn't mean I don't love you, tears are the frequent guests of memory. Li's Haihang replied instantly, in this life, for you, I would confine myself within the lines. Huang Jiani revealed a smug and sly smile. At this time, Liu Yao, from 20 meters away, clearly saw the message on the phone and instantly felt his hackles rise and goosebumps shed all over the floor. What is this crap? Li Lei's dad is really a closet pervert. Sitting in a corner furiously criticizing, Liu Yao also casually spun a 20 kilograms dumbbell in his hand as if twirling a pen. Soon, two middle-aged handsome men approached, heading straight for Huang Jiani. These two were dressed appropriately, with hair, eyebrows, and nails all meticulously groomed and trimmed. They carried themselves with a refined and noble air. After meeting, they first greeted her with a chorus of "Hello, Sister Ji," and then began to report on their work. The woman entrepreneur I hooked is still dreaming of love after being scammed out of 8 million. I think we can make another hit. My target is a retired bank executive, quite influential. I think there's no need to rush for the money, we can consolidate and use her as a stepping stone. Huang Jiani said, the old professor I'm dealing with is a bit of a headache, he doesn't handle the funds. After listening for a while, Liu Yao had confirmed. These three were part of a mega scam group. They targeted men and women aged 40-60 who were single, wealthy, and powerful, using their own attractive appearance to gain the victim's favor and trust, then inducing them to offer up their assets, and even using their positions of power to provide conveniences. The whole process was blatant, with no fabrication or concealment, simply using their charm to play with the victim's emotions, making them willingly give up everything. To put it bluntly, it was just leading dogs on a leash to take advantage. Liu Yao watched the three people with a playful look, marveling at the many wonders in the world. Although they indeed had good looks and demeanor, it was a pity they picked the wrong person. The extraction of the drug relates to my life and death stakes, how dare you meddle? Li's Haihang, having turned into a fawning admirer, would certainly hold up the progress, absolutely unbearable. Liu Yao stood up and slowly approached, the three people oblivious to his presence, still chattering and laughing. "Ag, you're not planning to scam someone into jumping off a building again this time, are you? Ha, you can't top that time when you got the ant to slash her wrist right in front of the bank. She had just transferred the money when you blocked her. There are also some country folks who like to drink pesticides." Huang Jiani heard all this without a care. Indeed, many who were deceived emotionally and then stripped of their money might be driven to desperate measures. But what did all this have to do with her? It was a matter of the willing striking hands with the willing. While still texting Li's Haihang, Huang Jiani suddenly saw a young man approaching and her eyes lit up. The man had a fit and muscular physique, enchanting with lean muscle that looked slim in clothes yet muscular when revealed. A real powerhouse in bed. Moreover, he had a really nice scent about him, intoxicating indeed. Being around middle-aged men makes me sick to my stomach. I need to get with a young stud to let off some steam. Huang Jiani let out a seductive smile, the look of an older woman craving a younger man. She bumped into him on purpose, intending to feign a fall to spark an encounter. The person walking towards them was Liu Yao. He casually threaded his way between the three of them, slightly reaching out to deflect their bodies, especially the eager embraces of the mature beauties while muttering "excuse me." He looked like a hurried passerby, but his 3 threads of inner breath had already been transmitted into the others' bodies with the briefest of touches. Huang Jiani watched the attractive young man disappear around the corner, with a hint of regret in her eyes. She had touched the young man's arm, confirming his muscles were indeed firm. A guaranteed pleasure for days. The fire within her was stoked, and it needed to be extinguished. She turned to her two companions, Aren, Ag, let's go back to our room for some fun, find a little entertainment. Aren and Ag, two middle-aged men oozing charm but usually dealing with strong women, also had pent-up stress to release, and the trio promptly returned to their room. Huang Jiani went for a shower, while Aren and Ag seized the opportunity to swallow numerous pills. Having served older women all year round, they were weary in body and mind and required copious medication. During her shower, Huang Jiani noticed a black line on her arm, finer than a hair and seemingly spreading upward. It was exactly where the young man had touched her. This black line was hard to see without close inspection, and it didn't wash off despite her rubbing. There was no pain or itching sensation. Did I pull a muscle during yoga earlier? Huang Jiani didn't pay much attention to it, still she didn't forget to reply to Li Haihang's message, may your life be as clear and bright as crystal, loving only those whom you wish to love. The instant reply came, through the misty blue rain, a solitary shadow awaits you. Huang Jiani sneered at the text but suddenly found the black line on her arm had reached her shoulder. Years of conning people had honed her alertness, she sensed something amiss and quickly stood to examine it closely. The black line was moving faster than before. Seeing her strange expression, Aren and Ag asked, Sister Ji, what's wrong? What happened? No sooner had they asked than they followed Huang Jiani's gaze to the black line slowly creeping across her shoulder onto her body. Aren said, I've got this thing on me too. He pointed to an identical black line on his chest, looking puzzled. This line was spreading much faster than Huang Jiani's. Ag looked down into his shock, found a similar line on his chest. It was spreading quickly too, like a little snake burrowing through his body, chillingly eerie. By now, all three realized that something was terribly wrong. Call an ambulance. We might have been poisoned. If one person had a sprain or a bruise it's one thing, but when all three had the same symptom, there was definitely a problem. Huang Jiani decisively reached for the phone to dial the emergency number. Being involved in egregious scams, they certainly had many enemies, that's why their group always moved together, to watch each other's backs in case of trouble. But at that moment, the black line on Ag's body reached his heart and vanished. His expression abruptly froze, then twisted in pain as he clutched his chest, collapsing to the ground, eyes bulging and mouth making a kikikika sound. It was the unmistakable signs of acute myocardial infarction. The remaining two were about to assist, but the next second, the black line on Aren's body also entered his heart, and he fell to the ground in agony, displaying the same symptoms. Chapter 202. Killing imperceptibly. Seeing her two accomplices drop dead on the ground, Huang Jiani completely panicked, subconsciously looking for the black line on her body, but she couldn't find it anywhere. When she ran to the mirror, she saw that the black line hadn't spread towards her chest but instead was snaking down her shoulder, collarbone, and creeping up to her neck, heading towards her head. Ah! Huang Jiani screamed in terror, her hands trembling as she unlocked her phone and dialed 120. After connecting, she cried out in horror, "Help! Save me!" This cry, enough to startle heaven and earth and move ghosts and spirits, pierced through the soundproofing of the five-star hotel, and footsteps could already be heard in the hallway. Liu Yao bought an ice cream cone and ate it as he walked. He had channeled his inner breath into the three individuals, setting it to activate in about 1 hour. But just as he threw the ice cream wrapper into the trash can, an ambulance arrived with sirens blaring. It's only been half an hour, what kind of strenuous activity did they engage in? By the time he got back to the hotel entrance, he just saw a group of people carrying 3 naked men and women wrapped in bedsheets downstairs. Aren and Ag's faces were bruised blue and purple, no longer needing resuscitation. Huang Jiani's eyes were wide open in terror, half her face normal, while the other half drooped as if it had lost control. This was a sign of hemiplegia. The doctors who arrived said, 2 cardiac arrests died on the spot, the cerebral infarction patient has impaired consciousness, prepare the operating room for rescue. A few onlookers commented in amazement, strange indeed, 2 men battling 1 woman. Those 2 men, it's said they died of heart attacks from overdosing on aphrodisiacs, scaring the woman to death. All 3 of them in their 40s and still playing so wild, thinking they're young. So it was indeed strenuous activity, no wonder it took only half an hour to take effect. What Liu Yao didn't know was that the stimulant drugs the 2 men had taken also played a significant role. Inner breath, which is of great benefit to the body, can actually kill without a trace, truly amazing. Inner breath can strengthen and refine muscles, internal organs, and even bone marrow, and is the core of cultivation. Taking tonic drugs is essentially to generate more inner breath for cultivation. Liu Yao's rapid growth was thanks to Liao Qi channeling inner breath into him gently every day. The sensation was incredibly comfortable and blissful, often sending him directly into a deep meditative state. Yet this delightful inner breath could have such a malevolent effect, easily damaging the body's internal organs. Contemplating the wonder of inner breath, Liu Yao quickly finished his ice cream and turned to leave. Arriving home, although he anticipated some chaos from the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks, as soon as he opened the door, he found a sheep. The poor sheep had its spine twisted and broken by sharp claws, lying powerless on the living room floor, looking up at Liu Yao as he entered. Where did this sheep come from? Looking at the 3 sparrowhawks, he saw Ji Xiang and Ping An standing on the couch, well away from the scene. Ru Yi seemed proud, flapping its wings as if waiting for its master's praise. Liu Yao smiled wryly, rubbing his forehead. He'd left the windows wide open to facilitate their coming and going, but he hadn't expected Ru Yi to bring back a sheep. The 3 sparrowhawks had distinct personalities. Ping An was brave and keen, Ji Xiang was cunning and sly, often taking advantage when the other 2 were fiercely competing to snatch the newspaper. Ru Yi, on the other hand, was somewhat dull-witted. Liu Yao was quite fond of the 3, and thus didn't rebuke or punish them. The spiritual sparrowhawks quickly gathered around, nibbling at their owner's hand with their beaks to signal for a soothing massage. In just 10 minutes, Liu Yao had all 3 of them lying on the ground with their eyes rolling back, instantly behaving themselves. He then used the remaining inner breath to cultivate himself. After being washed with inner breath, bone marrow would turn into frost like sinew, strengthening frost, but it would revert to its original state after a while. Therefore, one must ensure the speed of sinew strengthening exceeds the recovery speed to succeed. In theory, as long as one's cultivation was unbroken, anyone could undergo a blood exchange. It's just that some people might need over 100 years. Exhaling a turbid breath as his inner breath was depleted, Liu Yao thought. I completed the sinew strengthening in 2 years, which is already among the top tier. It's a pity that time is not on my side, and I need to be even faster. The extraction of supplements is imperative. This was part of the plan made long ago. At that moment, a knock on the door came. Liu Yao waved his hand, and the 3 sparrowhawks, showing their spiritual nature, instantly flew out the window and soared into the sky. Ru Yi even took the sheep it had caught. Since the master wasn't eating it, there was no point in wasting it. Upon opening the door, there stood Li Lei. Li Lei entered the room with a face full of surprise and doubt. Did you do this? 2 heart attacks, 1 stroke, and they all happened naturally. Right after she gave Liu Yao the address, the 3 con artists suffered from their illnesses on the spot and simultaneously at that. It didn't seem like a mere coincidence. Li Lei pressed on, how did you do it? The old man just went to visit his old lover in the hospital. That female con artist was left with severe complications, a lifetime of intellectual impairment, and hemiplegia. It was me. I used some rather special methods, Liu Yao replied nonchalantly. Although we have a relatively close relationship, you've always lacked understanding of me. I am not a benevolent person. Recently, I've also offended the Foreign Affairs Bureau and am being hunted. You could likely become involved. For your own safety, it would be best to keep your distance from me. Hearing these unguarded words, Li Lei was stunned and took a while to process what she had heard. The 2 looked at each other in silence, with only the ticking of the clock's second hand filling the air. Although Liu Yao despised the Foreign Affairs Bureau, it was, after all, Blue Star's premier intelligence organization, and he did not want to bring trouble upon the young woman. Li Lei said in a muffled voice, after all that, you're a spy or something. Close enough. The young woman sighed and said, I've already transferred the cash you gave me into your account. The extraction of the medication will be done in 2 days, and the old man has completely abandoned his old lover, fully dedicating himself to research. All right, thank you, Liu Yao replied with a smile, nodding his head. He thought that ending things this way wouldn't be so bad, but then he saw the young woman starting to undress. Wait a second, didn't I tell you to keep your distance? You contact me once in over a month, and you still expect me to keep my distance? What, should I see you once a quarter? Li Lei quickly pushed Liu Yao onto the bed. To hell with the Foreign Affairs Bureau, let them come to Xia country if they dare. The next day, Liu Yao received an express delivery from Li Jin at the neighborhood supermarket. Knowing that he was in a hurry, the sender had used the next day delivery service. Upon opening it, he found the contents resembled a brick in shape, though thinner, about as thick as a palm. The solid appearance felt reassuring, and after inserting his card and turning it on, Liu Yao found it was not difficult to operate and quickly learned how to use it. After downloading a few common apps, he discovered there was over 40 million in his account. The 2 big bags of money he had brought back contained over 4 million Star Alliance currency, which Li Lei had helped deposit into his account. Even after all sorts of taxes and fees, there was still 20 million left. Adding to the money he already had, and after giving the spiritual sparrowhawks a glance, Liu Yao decided to buy a detached villa to avoid drawing attention to their comings and goings. Chapter 203. Extraction Equipment. Villas can range in value from 400 million to just 4 million to purchase, and the one Liu Yao bought was the latter. Named General Mountain Art Town, the place nestled against mountains and waters, boasting beautiful scenery. Moreover, it highly valued privacy and quiet, with each property hundreds of meters apart from the next. The villa design wasn't bad either, a 2-story detached house with a large courtyard, good lighting, and strong transparency. There were many advantages, so it shouldn't have been so cheap. But the location was simply too remote. It was 20 kilometers from the city center, with no amenities nearby. Even getting a delivery required a half-hour drive, and electricity couldn't be provided 24 hours a day. It relied on photovoltaic power to alleviate the shortfall. This god-forsaken place was essentially someone's brainwave to build a few houses in the wilderness. Everyone is wise to this, and over the years, few have bought here. However, for Liu Yao, this was the biggest advantage. He had too many secrets, plus 3 sparrowhawks to deal with, so he needed a place that wouldn't draw attention. After buying the villa in full, he went to a Porsche dealership and bought a Cayenne for commuting. With that, Liu Yao, too, had a villa and a luxury car on Blue Star. Although it couldn't compare to the gardens in the other world, it was still like upgrading from a pellet gun to a cannon. Once he'd finished all this, Li Lei finally called. The drug extraction had results. Driving the flashy Cayenne to the pharmaceutical lab, Li Lei and her father, Li's Haihang, were already waiting at the entrance to greet him. Li's Haihang, a nearly 60-year-old handsome gentleman with glasses, looked somewhat melancholic. He had rushed to the hospital the first chance he got yesterday. Seeing his ex-lover turned foolish, with a crooked mouth and cockeyed face, and learning about their promiscuous escapades, Li's Haihang was severely shocked. He suddenly felt stupid, as though he'd been hoodwinked by the woman again, blinded by infatuation, and had no idea what other foolish things he might do. At this moment, he had an epiphany, as if seeing through the skull beneath the skin. If he were in the other world, his spirit-refining stage would definitely have made some progress. "Uncle, hello. Liu, you've got a new car." "Yeah, made a bit of money." Meeting up, Liu Yao smiled oddly. Having seen Li's Haihang's chat messages, he could no longer look at the man straight. This old heartthrob seemed cultured, but in truth, he was hot-blooded inside, almost madly passionate. But then again, he's still a man of character and, Li Lei does look a lot like him. Anyone sane would steer clear of Liu Yao, given his dangerous aura. This girl, on the other hand, pursued him aggressively instead. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. "Liu, welcome to the lab. Development has been going smoothly. Come on, let's walk and talk," Li's Haihang said, leading the way and giving him a brief update on the situation. The chemical components of the herbs are very complex. They contain a variety of active ingredients, but also inactive and even toxic ones. Our ultimate goal is to extract the effective components and further purify them. We're currently combining ultra-fine grinding with supercritical fluid extraction. First, we break down the raw medicine into particles smaller than 5 microns using special equipment, making the ingredients easier to extract and even allowing the active ones to be directly exposed. Then, we use supercritical fluids as the extractant to draw out specific components, achieving our end goal. As they spoke, they came to a row of equipment. These machines were about the size of a fridge lying flat, each with a control panel. Li's Haihang introduced, "This is the mini extraction machine. It produces high-purity extracts, and it's simple to operate and energy efficient." He was quite proud at that moment, having developed the extraction process while also preparing for future mass production. He truly was getting his money's worth as a research scientist. Liu Yao looked completely out of his depth but nodded continuously. Can this thing be powered by household electricity? Absolutely, this is just a small experimental machine. Li's Haihang demonstrated on the spot. He gathered the herbs needed for a 10-ingredient tonic soup, placed them into the top of the device, and then pressed the power button. The herbs entered the machine, were first pulverized into particles smaller than 5 micrometers by ultrasound, and then transformed into supercritical fluids under extreme temperature and pressure. Subsequently, impurities and toxins were separated out, leaving only the active substances. Finally, after sterilization and microwave drying, the product emerged from the end of the device, looking like cold effervescent powder. The whole process was fully automated, requiring just the press of a button, aligning perfectly with today's trends. Liu Yao curiously looked at the powder. Can I taste it? Li's Haihang smiled, of course. This is the most basic extraction, completely harmless. Liu Yao entered the spirit refining state and took a taste. He felt the potency had tripled. He then asked, if this is the most basic extraction, how strong can the potency get? Li's Haihang answered, at present, we can achieve up to 10 times stronger, simply by adjusting the parameters on the extraction equipment. But it has not been clinically tested yet, so it could be harmful to the human body. Upon hearing this, Liu Yao chuckled and said, excellent. I'm very satisfied. I'll invest an additional 10 million. Please continue with your research, focusing on maximizing extraction to enhance potency. Li's Haihang nodded, thank you for your trust. Don't worry, this is already my main task. Liu Yao added, I want to take one of the devices with me. His tone was unmistakable. Li's Haihang replied, you are the investor, it's up to you. After saying goodbye to Li Lei and his daughter, Liu Yao took the extraction machine back to his newly purchased villa. He immediately plugged it in and set the potency to 10 times stronger. 5 minutes later, about 20 grams of cold effervescent powder fell into the cup at the end of the device, and a pungent medicinal scent wafted through the air. Without having undergone a clinical trial, it could be toxic. But Liu Yao was not an ordinary person, his martial artist physique was robust, and he paid little attention to typical toxins. In fact, many tonic prescriptions even contained highly toxic substances like arsenic trioxide and aconite. Liu Yao took a taste, the strong bitterness permeated his mouth, and there was a slight numbness. I can feel the numbness, it must be highly toxic to ordinary people. But the potency is indeed 10 times the original. Prescriptions don't show effectiveness on Blue Star, I have to take the device back to Otherworld to test. If he added this extraction machine, there would be more and more Otherworld appliances, it was time to upgrade the power supply. Next, Liu Yao bought a large-scale photovoltaic solar power system to replace the diesel generator. With 2 suns in the Otherworld sky, there was an abundance of light energy, and his own expansive garden was particularly well suited for such a device. Photovoltaic power generation was a mature technology. The system Liu Yao bought could last for 25 years, generating over 10,000 kilowatt-hours annually, which was definitely sufficient. Liu Yao gathered all the things he planned to take into the garage and whistled to summon the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks back. Everything was ready, he opened the door and returned to Otherworld. Chapter 204 Genio Society Attacks Otherworld, Jin Garden. In the 3 days that Liu Yao had been absent, Liao Qi had a delightful time, all thanks to the company of a very attentive big sister. This big sister often gave her rare little gifts and guided her cultivation, speaking in a way that was a pleasure to listen to, much better than her own blood sister. Her real sister was always bossing her around, nagging her about how to eat properly, how to walk, even how to sit or lie down, and would spank her on impulse. On several occasions, she had been spanked in front of someone she had a crush on, causing her great embarrassment. Moreover, lately her sister had been getting on strangely with her crush, exchanging looks that seemed to be blazing with an inner fire. Thinking of this, Liao Qi shook her head to dispel the unpleasant thoughts. Li Pei asked, "Little sister, what is the matter with you?" "It's nothing, just some silly thoughts." At this moment, 2 charming women were soaking together in a medicinal bath. In the emerald green liquid, only pink and white hues could be seen, as the 2 tender bodies cuddled intimately, seeming even closer than real sisters. "It should be about time," said Li Pei, who had recently been trying hard to ingratiate herself with Liao Qi. Liao Qi felt increasingly fond of the commandery princess. Her own sister was stingy and wouldn't let others even look at her. But this big sister was generous. And after spending time with Li Pei, Liao Qi grew bolder. He he. Liao Qi let out a few giggles. Though she was the youngest, she was quite familiar with this sensation and even teased the commandery princess a bit. Feeling quite pleased, she stood up and left the bathing tub. As Li Pei, a woman herself, could not help but admire, indeed, little sister has a graceful figure. Touching the curves of her waist and hips, Liao Qi proudly said, Lu Ya really likes this spot. Li Pei also got up from the tub, her figure in no way inferior. Her inner breath steamed away the water on her body in an instant, before she helped Liao Qi dry off and get dressed, acting every bit the caring big sister. She felt, it was about time to lay her cards on the table. At the same moment, in the western mountainous forest of Jin Garden, a man clad in black, his face covered and carrying a katana, stood atop a tree, gazing into Jin Garden from afar. His pupils were wide, his eyes sharp like an eagle's, taking in a clear and detailed view of the garden's interior. This was the way a martial artist observed from a distance, very different from those in the spirit refinement stage. After completing his observation, the man leaped down from the nearly 30-meter high treetop and landed lightly without a sound. A layer of inner breath covered his body, nullifying all air movement and noise, a method of inner breath usage unique to the blood exchange mirror stage. The masked man said to his two companions, I have confirmed that the fetal breath realm powerhouse is not here, we can make our move. Even if he were here, what of it? The spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing, the martial path is nothing but marrow cleansing after all. Another short-statured masked man, toying with a shuriken in his hand, spoke with disdain. Kojia Hideki. By dithering, you've wasted a full 2 days. Don't you know our most important task currently is to monitor the movements of the Biyang fleet? Kojia Hideki didn't respond but instructed, Jubei, Mikako. We strike immediately. Remember, we have to capture the one called Liao Qi. The short, masked man known as Jubei was ignored by the other party, and he instantly flew into a rage, you brat from Koga. Who said you get to call the shots? But before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by his last companion Mikako, Lord Iga Jubei, please calm your anger. She, too, was dressed in black with a masked face, but her figure was enchanting, and her voice very sweet. As fellow members of the Jinio Society, please prioritize the bigger picture over quarreling. Iga Jubei fell silent, his face cold. The three of them were from a spy organization in Izumo. The Jinio Society. Known for their long-standing infiltration, sabotage, and intelligence-gathering activities within the territory of the Shun dynasty. Although all three were members of the Jinio Society, they came from different training sects. The two men were ninjas from Koga and IGA, ninja organizations that had been hostile to each other for centuries, whereas the woman was from the Special Hire Police. While they didn't get along very well, they could still unite against a common enemy. The most important task at hand was to monitor every move of the Biyang fleet to prepare for the coming war. But at this critical moment, they were suddenly dispatched to Yunzhou to carry out a kidnapping by Kuki Raiwichi. Mikako spoke sweetly, there's only one blood exchange, 2 marrow cleansings in the manor, we have 3 blood exchanges, plus 6 marrow cleansing assistants. We completely overpower them. After finishing her statement, she clapped her hands, and 6 black-clothed figures appeared and bowed deeply to the 3 of them. They were all at the marrow cleansing realm, assigned to assist the 3 lords during the operation. The group of 9 headed straight for Jin Garden. Their running was rather peculiar. With their hands held behind them, bodies scheming close to the ground. They were armed with a variety of cold weapons, but all carried large-caliber double-barreled shotguns on their backs. Elephant guns. Meanwhile, inside Jin Garden, the 3 were oblivious to the impending crisis. Li Pei was helping Liao Qi comb her hair. The girl usually wore 2 braids, but this time she opted for a peach heart bun, which presented a unique charm. As she combed Liao Qi's hair, Li Pei hinted, Sister, Lu Yao is so young and already at the fetal breath realm, his future is boundless. He will definitely become a great grandmaster of the golden body realm. Indeed. But to become a great grandmaster, talent alone is not enough. Through the ages, so many geniuses have fallen midway, a real cause for regrets, she said. The commandery princess was spot on, and upon hearing this, Liao Qi immediately tensed up. Li Pei continued, so, just to be on the safe side, it's best to form a marital alliance with a trustworthy and dependable power. Only then can one steadily reach the peak. Liao Qi looked back at her big sister with a strange expression and asked, what do you mean? Sister Li Pei spoke candidly, look at me, I'm already 20 and still haven't found a suitable husband. Why not have Liu Yao marry me? That way, we'd become real sisters, and I would treat you even better than I do now. Liao Qi was flabbergasted, pointing at her big sister, unable to speak. It took her a good while before she stammered, you. I don't want your stuff, and don't you dare try to take my Liu Yao. As she spoke, she took off her watch, hair clip, and everything else in a hurry and handed them back to Li Pei. Li Pei quickly tried to persuade her, wait a second, sister, forgive my frankness. You might not be able to hold on to Liu Yao. Think about those women who visited 2 days ago, there will only be more coming in the future, and some might be even more impressive. But with me around, I can drive them all away. Not a single one will be allowed to enter. Hehe, no need, I can take care of it. With your beauty, princess, you can certainly find someone better. Li Pei took Liao Qi's hand, speaking earnestly, I'm not overbearing, I would only share a little bit of you, just think of it as having one more sister. I don't want another sister. Liao Qi shouted, jerking her hand away, and ran outside. At that moment, a series of explosions erupted nearby in the garden, creating a continuous rumble. One of Liu Yao's landmines had been detonated. Chapter 205 Bloodbath. Kojia Hideki, Jubei, and Mikako, along with 6 subordinates, raced forward with their hands behind their backs, their bodies hugging the ground. They deliberately chose a route within the garden that was hard to detect and then stepped on a landmine near the garden wall. The first thing they encountered was a tripwire landmine. This device spiraled into the air and exploded above the enemy's head as soon as someone passed by, simultaneously spraying shrapnel. This thing posed a great threat to those below the organ refining realm, but it didn't cause much damage to those in the marrow cleansing realm or the blood exchange realm. Especially for the 3 leaders of the blood exchange realm, even bullets from an AK rifle couldn't harm them much, as long as the landmine didn't explode in their embrace, it wouldn't cause them much damage. But the activation of this device would trigger the real killer. The Claymore anti-infantry landmine. Claymore anti-infantry landmines were like an upright lunchbox. The side that read this side toward enemy would, upon detonation, blast out 700 steel balls like a giant shotgun, covering a 50-meter range with a 60-degree arcade. Fearing insufficient firepower, Liu Yao arranged them in groups of 3, forming a minefield. Bang bang bang, a series of loud explosions rang out as 3 700 steel balls were ejected. The 2,100 steel balls shrieked through the air like a tidal wave, there was no way to dodge, and the only option was to take the hit. The marrow cleansing realm underlings each took hundreds of steel balls, thud thud thud, the sound of them embedding into flesh filling the air, followed by plumes of blood mist, before they were turned into various chunks flying through the air. The 3 in the blood exchange realm managed to shield their heads and faces in time, their bodies embedded with steel balls as they were blasted away. But they were not seriously harmed and squeezed the steel balls out by twisting their muscles and bones. The 3 had been engaged in dangerous espionage for years, battle-hardened and cold-hearted, they didn't take this minor injury to heart at all. This injury instead fueled their ferocity. With fierce expressions, they stomped the ground, creating large craters, and used the fastest movements to kill toward Jin Garden. Having lost their assistants mattered little, with 3 against 1, victory was still assured. They didn't take the Liao family sisters in the marrow cleansing realm seriously at all. The sound of the landmines exploding alerted the 3 women to the incoming enemies. However, with the blood exchange realm unleashing their full power, their speed reached 150 km per hour. The 3 Izumo experts arrived in an instant, and the first sight they saw was Li Pei and Liao Qi tussling in the yard. Without a word, they attacked. Li Pei immediately shouted upon realizing there were 3 blood exchange experts, "Sister, run fast! Call master for me!" With that, she fearlessly stood her ground to meet the oncoming assault. Liao Qi hesitated slightly, knowing this wasn't the time for modesty, and turned to run. The 3 Izumo experts, who had years of experience in assassination and kidnapping, were incredibly skilled in combat, even among those in the blood exchange mirror, they were among the most formidable. They confidently split their forces on the spot. Kojia Hideki and Mikako engaged Li Pei while Jubei went after Liao Qi. However, they underestimated the Liao family sisters. The sisters' brilliance had been overshadowed by Liu Yao, unknown to the outside world. Both of them were bona fide spirit refinement firmness practitioners. With a sharp whooshing sound, Jubei threw a chain sickle aiming for Liao Qi's thigh. Liao Qi entered firmness mode, with everything around her slowing to half speed. She easily dodged the attack, causing it to whiz harmlessly past her body. Zhu Bei, refusing to believe what he saw, threw two sickles simultaneously, filling the air with the whooshing of their flight. But all missed Liao Qi by a whisker as she deftly dodged. The two sickles could only futilely deeply gouge the ground, failing to touch the girl by even the slightest amount. Furious, Zhu Bei's legs burst with power as he shot toward his prey like lightning. Liao Qi agilely dodged left and right, and surprisingly, the distance between them grew wider and wider. Kojia Hideki, Mikako, and Li Pei were so evenly matched it was hard to call the winner. The commandery princess had a solid foundation, her strength far surpassed that of a common blood exchange, plus her innate realm master often used true qi to cleanse her, making her flesh incredibly robust. Her pink fists clashing with steel blades could even spark fire. She was extremely difficult to deal with. Kojia Hideki had initially planned to strike quickly and then flee, as this was still Shun dynasty territory, and the Jinio society had a notoriously bad reputation they didn't want to linger with. But seeing his accomplice not gaining the upper hand, he couldn't help but curse, "Zhu Bei! What are you doing?" The offensive and defensive attributes of the blood exchange realm were supposed to crush the marrow cleansing realm, guaranteeing the enemy's death within 3 moves. Yet his comrade seemed to be toying around, and the two of them were about to chase each other out of the yard. Zhu Bei shouted angrily, "This little bitch is firm with the spirit refinement firmness. Eclipse body explosion technique, fast." He directly activated the explosive secret technique, risking bodily harm just to catch his prey. The two sickle chains flew out like venomous snakes biting at their prey, their speed too fast to be caught by the naked eye. Liao Qi hastily dodged to the side, but could not adapt to the opponent's sudden doubling in speed and did not fully evade. Her ankle was entangled by the sickle chain. Li Pei, despite taking a cut from Kojia Hideki, which left a bone-deep wound on her arm, shot back with both fists to hammer at Zhu Bei, rushing to the rescue. Zhu Bei curved his arms to block the blow, and with a loud bang, his own feet sank into the ground, but he was not panicked at all. Just then, 2 of his companions had already taken the chance to attack. Kojia Hideki made a clean IAI slash, opening up a large gash on Li Pei's back. Luckily, such a wound could only be considered a minor injury for someone of the blood exchange realm. But Mikako had already pulled out her elephant gun and pulled the trigger. Li Pei locked onto the direction of the gun muzzle and the finger pulling the trigger, and moved sideways in a flash to avoid it. Mikako, smiling, said, "Why does Shun country have so many spirit refinement experts?" As she spoke, she surprisingly turned her aim towards Liao Qi. Li Pei immediately stepped in front of Liao Qi to protect her. Mikako's smile became sweeter, and she instantly pulled the trigger, firing the second shot from the double-barreled shotgun. Despicable! Li Pei bravely shielded Liao Qi, intercepting the bullet with her arm. The elephant gun used 33mm caliber monolithic bullets, which tore through the flesh and were caught by Li Pei's bones. She grimaced in pain and staggered back 3 steps. Such bullets could kill an elephant, the force was certainly not light. Seeing that Li Pei cared so much for Liao Qi, the 3 Azuma warriors actually drew their guns and aimed at the younger sister at the same time, forcing Li Pei to staunchly catch the monolithic bullets. Li Pei stood her ground without moving, her expression resolute as she bent her arm. But she could not withstand several shots from an elephant gun. In the other world, life and death among martial artists were often decided within 1 minute, with no fights dragging on for half a day. At this moment, after a brief flurried exchange, they had been fighting for less than half a minute. Just as the 3 Azuma warriors were about to fire, the support from Liaoya finally arrived. Amidst the noise of the electric pick drilling through the wall, the long unheard sound of the .50 machine gun erupted. The sisters' weapons were always hidden under the bed, ready to be drawn and used. The first to suffer was Zhu Bei, the one with the chain sickles entangling people. He reacted quickly. After being hit by the first shot, he swung his weapon while simultaneously dodging. But a .50 machine gun in the hands of a spirit refinement expert was terrifyingly powerful. Zhu Bei's body burst open with teacup-sized bloody holes one after another, countless mercury-like shiny blood spurting out, and he, along with his weapon, was blown into a heap of meaty fragments. The .50 caliber bullets exited the barrel wrapped in high temperatures, presenting a bright red line in the air, akin to a beautiful streak of fire, pursuing Kojia Hideki. Kojia Hideki managed to deflect about 10 bullets with his sword, while running behind a tree for cover. Unfortunately, he was a step too slow, and in the last moment, a .50 caliber bullet entered his temple. Chapter 206. Make your own decision. After reaching the blood exchange realm, martial artists not only possess bones as strong as refined steel, but they also gain an incomparable vitality that allows them to ignore most fatal wounds. This kind of vitality makes martial artists somewhat like insects. Insects can keep living for a while even after being pierced through the body, or even without their heads. At this moment, Kojia Hideki had a hole the size of a teacup on the top of his head, his brain matter had burst all over the place, yet he was still moving. He was swinging his katana wildly with eyes rolled back, and with his other hand, he fired 2 random shots from an elephant gun, moving aimlessly for a good while before dying. The scene was somewhat horrific. Meanwhile, Mikako had already sprinted a good distance away, nearly escaping the garden. When the first comrade died, she knew it was a firearm attack by a spirit refining expert. Martial artists respond quickly and might dodge, while spirit refining experts are precise shooters. The whole scene looked as if the martial artists were catching bullets themselves. This is also a major characteristic of spirit refining experts operating firearms. Seeing the enemy fleeing, Liaoya did not give chase but instead ran to Li Pei's side. Li Pei was kneeling on the ground, her condition appeared very weak, and she was not fully conscious. Her arm where she had been shot was blackened, and a thick inky substance was spreading through her veins into her body. Withering bullet. Liaoya hurriedly went to fetch some silver, shouting towards the direction of the storeroom, "Don't let her escape." Liu Yao emerged holding the grenade sniper. He had just returned and saw the enemy being driven away. "Don't worry." Liu Yao picked up the grenade sniper, squatted on the ground, then propelled himself into the air with a fierce push of his legs, leaping 20 meters high. In the distance, 3 spiritual sparrowhawks continuously circled the fleeing enemy, informing their master of the enemy's position. Liu Yao had entered the spirit refining state, and the enemy appeared to be moving at 0.3 times the normal speed. The ability to see actions in slow motion did not further improve after reaching fetal breath, the biggest change being the peculiar and extensible mind force, which can now interact with objects in reality. Although now Liu Yao could only lift a paper airplane with it, he was able to interfere with objects in the real world after all. From his elevated position, Liu Yao rapidly pulled the trigger 3 times, firing 3 armor-piercing grenade rounds endowed with mind force. In a desperate struggle, Mikako unleashed her hidden potential, slightly increasing her speed. In the blink of an eye, she ran over 500 meters away. The velocity of the armor-piercing grenades was only 360 meters per second, meaning the opponent had a little over a second to respond. A second is enough for a blood exchange warrior. Mikako suddenly turned around, performing the tornado flash drawing technique. The katana, like a crescent moon, sliced an armor-piercing grenade right down the middle, splitting it into 2. Watching her fluid movements, it was clear she was the strongest of the 3. Furthermore, the katana, borrowing the momentum from tornado flash, spun around and struck at the second grenade with an even faster chop. But something strange happened. The second armor-piercing grenade swerved ever so slightly to the right. And it was precisely this slight deflection that caused the katana to miss. In the midst of Mikako's astonishment, the grenade hit her right in the lungs. This weapon, capable of burning through an 80mm steel plate, caused horrific damage. Mikako now had a charred, teacup-sized hole in her right chest and immediately lost her ability to move, collapsing to the ground. The third grenade followed closely behind. This grenade's trajectory had been slightly elevated. Originally aimed at the chest, it hit her head instead. Mikako, a skilled martial artist and seductive female spy from the Special Higher Police, met her death under the mysterious power of the spirit refining grenade. After landing, Liu Yao still savored the experience, feeling that with a bit more cultivation, he could unleash the legendary curving bullet. And can this ability be used on cannonballs? Cannons are inherently less precise than firearms, and it often takes nearly 10 seconds for a shot to reach the target, giving the enemy ample time to dodge and escape. If I could fine-tune the landing point of a cannonball, wouldn't I be able to snipe enemies from an ultra-long distance? Spirit refinement is truly wondrous, with many aspects yet to be explored. Withering bullets cause flesh to wither and decay. These bullets carrying such power are specifically designed for the physically robust martial artists and are a flagship product of Western countries' military sales. The elephant hunting bullet that Li Pei was hit with was not only of huge caliber, but it also had evidently been specially modified, covered with complex symbols. Its power was also extraordinary, loaded with a vast amount of withering energy. Liaoya dared to touch it only with tools and then removed it. After that, she applied silver to the wound. Amidst sizzling sounds and a puff of smoke, the blackened veins visibly restored at a speed visible to the naked eye, and Li Pei was immediately all right. Liao Qi had been silent all along. Seeing her big sister wake up, she asked, "You could have ignored me just now. Why did you take a bullet for me? My master did something similar before, and when I asked her, she said, I got carried away, and I regret it quite a bit." Li Pei said with a laugh, "I want to answer you in the same way. I didn't think too much about it at the time." At this time, Liu Yao finished inspecting the enemy's body and was walking over. Li Pei hurriedly whispered, "Sis, think it over carefully, and if you really don't want to, then let it be. But it'd be best to agree, I'm already 21 this year, and if I can't get married soon, people will gossip." Liao Qi pouted and humphed without responding. Liu Yao had already come over and said, "There is Umo people. It seems to be the doing of that Kuki Raiwichi from last time." Li Pei got up and said, "You mean the one who came with Eunuch An's visiting card last time?" "Yes, that's him. He tried to employ me as their shrine maiden and did such a thing after I rejected him. But I really disliked him then and showed a slight killing intent. Trying to recruit and then killing when it fails, that fits their way of doing things." Li Pei's expression was as somber as still water. "Izumo has been making frequent moves lately, and it's very possible they're plotting something mischievous using the chaos of the Great Powers battle." Liu Yao nodded, "I've read in the newspapers a long time ago that they have wolf-like ambitions. We were lucky to have Commandery Princess here this time. I can't thank you enough. If you want a massage in the future, just say the word, don't worry about sticking to those 30 times. Then I won't stand on ceremony," Li Pei replied with a beaming smile. At that moment, a high-speed swooshing sound was heard, and Yu Yanmei with the moon shadow sword descended from the sky, summoned by the precautionary phone call Liaoya had made. Yu Yanmei's expression was exceptionally icy as she closely inspected her disciple, relaxing only after confirming she was unharmed. Seeing the uniquely designed cartridge, she expressed surprise. "This is a withering bullet made from a Viscount-level blood core." Li Pei said, "It's from Jinio Society, they've always been well equipped." Immediately, Yu Yanmei took Li Pei away to thoroughly check her body at home, to avoid any potential lingering issues. After they departed, Liu Yao went off to tinker with the extraction equipment. Liao Qi quietly asked her sister, "What should I do?" As a spirit refining expert, Liaoya overheard the squabbling in the courtyard and saw the moment Li Pei blocked the bullet. Puzzled and frowning, she said, "One of you is my dear little sister, and the other is my best friend, I really don't know. You should decide for yourself." She truly did not know what to say, as her own relationship with her junior brother was also somewhat ambiguous. Chapter 207. Immortal Pill comes into existence. If Liu Yao's cultivation in the marrow cleansing realm could be represented by an experience bar, it would now be at most 1/3 full. Even so, his body possessed the strength of 5,000 jin, and when he worked, he did it with the ease and speed of a whirlwind. Moving and leaping with various objects, he finished in half an hour the work that would otherwise require a construction crew several days to complete. The photovoltaic system and the extraction machine had been properly set up. At this time, Zhang Jin, the trusted eunuch of Li Pei, arrived with his people. They were here to retrieve the bodies of the 3 Izumo spies. "Young Master Liu, how have you been?" "Eunuch Zhang, long time no see." Not having seen each other for many days, Eunuch Zhang looked significantly more haggard. As he was in charge of all the miscellaneous affairs of the National Martial Arts Association, he indeed had his hands full. These 3 individuals were core members of the Jinio Society. Now that they have all perished here, it will surely deal a heavy blow to Izumo's spy network. Eunuch Zhang, with a hint of both respect and excitement in his high-pitched voice, said. "The people of Jinio Society all have legitimate identities as their cover. They look exactly like us, and their language and writing are mutually intelligible. It's really hard to distinguish them. Once we identify these bodies, following the vine to find the melon will surely lead us to many more that have slipped through the net. Our National Martial Arts Association of Yunzhou has earned enormous credit." Through the exchange, Liu Yao became even more convinced. The Izumo of this world places great importance on espionage work. The extent of their investment and the meticulousness of their division of labor were astonishing. Moreover, they were not only targeting the Shun dynasty but were collecting military intelligence globally, not sparing Rakshasa, England, America, France, or any other. However, it seemed normal upon reflection. It was just part of their national character. Even as of today, the year 1202, when they had been reduced to a semi-colony, they still invested a significant amount of funds into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, boasting about the exceptional quality of their water. Truly, as the saying goes, a nation's mountains and rivers may change, but its nature remains hard to shift. Zhang Jin didn't linger for too long, and soon he happily left with the bodies. Liu Yao called over the sisters to witness the birth of the immortal pill. He put the ingredients of the 10-ingredient tonic soup into the machine. After processes like ultrasonic pulverization, super temperature and high-pressure extraction, and sterilization, 6 quail egg-sized pills fell into a prepared sea bowl. At the control panel of the extraction machine, Liu Yao chose not to grind them, so the final product appeared in the form of medicinal pills. 2 heads, full of lush hair, squeezed together, looking curiously at the pill, scrutinizing it intensely. Liao Qi asked in a tender voice. Liu Yao, is this the immortal pill you mentioned? It just looks like ordinary pills. Liao Ya sniffed with her delicate nose and said, the medicinal power is intense. Should we try it? All 3 took a pill and swallowed it. About half a minute later, they all had flushed faces, bloodshot eyes, and their breathing became exceptionally rapid. Such overwhelming medicinal power. I'm burning up. The sisters hurriedly used their focused spirit to regulate their breath, controlling and refining the medicinal power. Liu Yao felt as if a fire had been ignited in his belly. This uncontrollable fire blazed wildly within him. Wherever it reached, he felt an intense sensation of swelling, scalding, pain. This fire was the medicinal power. A quantitative change leads to a qualitative change. The effectiveness of the medicine skyrocketed tenfold after extraction. The originally mild and balanced 10-ingredient tonic soup had transformed into a potent medicine with fierce effects. To an ordinary person, this pill was poison, utterly unable to endure its violent effects. A marrow-cleansing realm martial artist could barely withstand it. But Liu Yao, as a spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing expert, was able to completely control it. Leveraging the millisecond reaction capability provided by the state of Zen, as well as the ability to control inner breath as if threading a needle, combined with the inner vision of the fetal breath realm, he effortlessly tamed the fire within. Liu Yao was like someone who had bitten into a piping hot roasted sweet potato, flipping the scorching food between his tongue, teeth, and mouth, continuously exhaling hot air. Before long, he swallowed it completely into his stomach and digested it without burning himself in the slightest. Subsequently, the medicinal power was converted by his organs into a vast amount of inner breath, surging inner breath supported by the vigorous qi and blood coursing through his entire body. Awesome! With so much inner breath, the speed of my marrow cleansing has increased tenfold. Previously my cultivation was limited by insufficient inner breath, but now I finally don't have to worry about that anymore. After half an hour, Liu Yao completely refined and absorbed the medicinal power and opened his eyes to see the sisters with their pretty faces red from holding their breath, clearly still working hard. Liao Ya said with a pained expression, the medicinal power is too overbearing, but that also proves it's very effective. Indeed, from now on, let's call it the 10 complete immortal pill. As he spoke, Liu Yao grabbed another 10 complete immortal pill and swallowed it without any regard for the overbearing medicinal power. Liao Ya was very envious, although she also hurriedly suppressed and refined the medicinal power. The second time is easier after the first, so Liu Yao refined the second pill a bit faster, turning it into surging inner breath within his body. This pure life energy, under the guidance of mind force, precisely and effectively cleansed his entire body's marrow. With Liu Yao's current control abilities, as long as he had enough ammunition, no fortress could withstand his attack. Taking advantage of the power from these 2 pills, Liu Yao made a concerted effort to completely cleanse the marrow in his limbs. Whether red marrow or yellow marrow, it all turned into an ice crystal-like refined marrow as frost. It seems my blood can contain even more energy. Right after the cleansing was completed, it wasn't obvious, the specific benefits would be known after a couple of days. When Liu Yao opened his eyes, he saw the 2 sisters looking at him. Have you absorbed it all? Eat another one, he suggested. Both women quickly shook their heads, with Liao Ya saying, we can't compare to you, a spirit refining expert. Absorbing the power of 1 immortal pill is already our limit. Liu Yao nodded and said, no problem, I'll eat more, and it will be the same if I massage you too. After saying that, in the astonished faces of the two women, he directly grabbed 2 pills and threw them into his mouth. At this point, the 6-10 complete immortal pills he refined were gone, each woman had 1, and Liu Yao had swallowed 4. Even though he ate 2 at a time, he was much more skilled now, refining them without any trouble. Then, making use of the surging inner breath brought about by the medicinal power, he gave his whole family a great imperial throne sword event. It wasn't just the 2 sisters who benefited, but also Suaria and the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks received professional level massages. This time it wasn't a quick rub and done, but a full, complete, head-to-toe, thorough massage and kneading. An hour later, Liaoya and Liao Qi were soaked with sweat, too lazy to move as they lay sprawled over the stone table. Suaria gathered her willpower to stand up, formally thanked Liu Yao, and then went to the training field to practice her punches, fully absorbing the benefits. The 3 spiritual sparrowhawks lay on the ground, rolling their eyes back with tongues lolling at the sides of their mouths and paws still twitching, utterly blissed out. Liu Yao looked at this scene with extreme pride, laughing arrogantly. Ha ha ha, as the saying goes, when one person attains enlightenment, the whole family ascends to heaven. With this medicine, our entire family will rocket to higher levels together, and it won't take long before we can. He stopped mid-sentence. As the saying goes, joy often turns to sorrow. Liu Yao still ate too much. Even with the assistance of the spirit refinement realm and his exquisite control over his body to absorb the medicinal power, there were still a few strands that slipped through. At that moment, his cheeks were bright red, and from his nostrils, like those of a bull, 2 streams of air spiraled out. Liu Yao quickly grabbed Liao Qi and ran inside the house. Chapter 208. The price of eating 4 in a row. Liaoya paced back and forth outside the room, deeply worried. How can junior brother be so reckless to take 4 pills at once? Thinking that something wasn't right with Liu Yao, she couldn't help but want to check on him, yet she dared not enter. Half an hour passed with neither of them coming out, and Liaoya grew even more anxious. Just then, she suddenly heard her younger sister crying out in pain repeatedly, and she couldn't resist bursting through the door. What's wrong? Are you guys okay? We're fine. Sister, please go out, it's okay, the medicinal power will dissipate soon. Liaoya's eyes bugged out for a few seconds, then she ran out with her face burning red. Relieved that they were all right yet still in shock, she thought, so that's what it was. That was scary. So gross. After another half an hour, Liu Yao finally supported Liao Qi as they came out. One was rubbing their head, seeming to have just regained consciousness, while the other was rubbing their abdomen with a furrowed brow. Liu Yao scratched his head and said, I was careless, the 10 complete immortal pill should only be taken in 3s. When Liao Qi saw her sister still waiting at the door, she quickly shook off her sweetheart's hand shyly. Liaoya let out a sigh of relief and said, it's good that you're fine. Junior brother, you were too greedy. Although there was a minor mishap, the result is good. With the immortal pill, our cultivation speed has skyrocketed. Liu Yao said with gravity, I only need the power of 2 pills to sustain my cultivation, the third can be used to help give you 2 a massage. There was no mistake in his words, and the sisters were also greatly uplifted. The elixirs that their junior brother made were worthy of being called immortal pills, and their fierce medicinal nature proved their extraordinary effects. Liaoya asked, Junior brother, how long can the 10 complete immortal pill be preserved? Liu Yao thought for a moment and said, theoretically 3 years, but it's best not to exceed 2 years. The shelf life of traditional Chinese medicine preparations is generally 3 years, but with time, the medicinal properties will inevitably diminish. Liaoya was already very pleased, that's great. Make more so we won't have to cook medicine every day, and we can take them with us when we go out. Yeah, it's indeed much more convenient than before, Liu Yao said just as the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks regained consciousness and excitedly soared into the sky with a flap of their wings. The spiritual sparrowhawks flew high in the sky, emitting joyful cries, and the 3 of them exchanged knowing smiles. In the capital, the imperial city, Ningxiao Palace. Jade palm offering longevity, luminous pearl tofu, polygonum multiflorum spirit dove, 100 flowers dragon sparrow. The eunuch steward Li Jinying called out each dish name one by one, a total of 108 medicinal dishes, then, flicking his dust whisk, he bowed and said, Empress Dowager, please enjoy your meal. After finishing, he moved behind a palace-dressed matron in her 30s who looked rather beautiful and dignified, exuding an undeniable aura of luxurious grace. However, her elongated eyes revealed her to be a woman skilled in scheming, and her downturned lips gave her a rather harsh appearance. It is difficult to guess the age of martial artists. She was actually near 70 years old, the widely renowned Holy Mother Empress Dowager. Little Li, you can let the servants handle these things, you don't need to attend to me daily. Empress Dowager, this servant is more than willing to serve you. Li Jinying spoke humbly, extending his hands to massage the Empress Dowager's shoulders. His movements were gentle and soothing, his hands imbued with innate true qi. The Empress Dowager enjoyed the sensation for a moment with her eyes closed, then glanced at another person in the room and said coldly, "Can't even eat a meal in peace." At that moment, the young emperor, Emperor Yong'an, sitting at the other end of the table, cleared his throat and said, "Empress Dowager. The rumors from a few days ago about Izumo country drafting the conquering strategy for obedient nations have been confirmed." The Empress Dowager elegantly tasted a piece of 100 flowers dragon sparrow and said indifferently, "Izumo, a mere speck of a nation, is not worth worrying about. But all their war preparations are aimed at our dynasty." Emperor Yong'an hesitated before saying, "Your son believes that we should put a hold on the summer palace and the longevity feast to save expenses." Before he could finish speaking, Emperor Yong'an suddenly felt as if a mountain pressed down upon him, making it difficult to breathe. The Empress Dowager's narrow eyes fixed on him, her mere gaze stripping the blood exchange realm emperor of control over his body. This was the oppressiveness of a great Grand Master, the natural domination of a higher life form over a lower one. "All I want is to celebrate my birthday with happiness, but why is it so difficult? Everyone comes to me with their lamentations." With the Empress Dowager's words, the entire palace began to shake, causing dishes, bowls, and stools to clink and clang, as if a minor earthquake had struck. At this moment, not only Emperor Yong'an but also anyone in the room who had not reached the innate level, found it hard to stay on their feet, and eunuchs, palace maids, and guards tumbled to the floor. Li Jinying respectfully said, "Please, Empress Dowager, calm your anger." The Empress Dowager then retracted her imposing aura and beckoned Emperor Yong'an over with her finger. Emperor Yong'an, ignoring the sweat-soaked garment, quickly knelt and scuttled over. The Empress Dowager said coldly, "I am laying down the law today, whoever disrupts the joy of my longevity feast will have a lifetime of discomfort. Do you understand, Your Majesty?" "Your son understands." Emperor Yong'an deeply regretted taking that person's advice to seek an audience with her, now only wanting to leave as quickly as possible. But at that moment, he heard a statement that was both unbelievable and what he had long desired. "Your Majesty, as long as you restore the summer palace, I will return the governance to you." Emperor Yong'an could hardly believe his ears. He looked up at the Empress Dowager, barely containing his overwhelming elation. "Empress Dowager, what did you say?" "I'm saying, as long as you restore the summer palace, the governance will be returned," said the Empress Dowager with a smile that was not quite a smile. "Your Majesty, the sooner you complete it, the sooner you can govern personally." Ever since he heard the longed-for words "return the governance," Emperor Yong'an was distracted, his facial expressions changing uncontrollably, and never again mentioned the matter of saving expenses. After the dazed young emperor left, the Empress Dowager scoffed and asked sideways, "Who's behind this instigation?" Li Jinying bowed and answered, "It was Prince Gong and the imperial mentor, Lord Wang." The Empress Dowager coolly said, "The longevity feast and the summer palace are my top priorities, and not a single mistake will be tolerated. Anyone who dares to make trouble, I'll make it so they cannot live nor die peacefully." Liu Yao and his family had been consuming immortal pills for 3 days straight, achieving tremendous gains in their martial Dao cultivation. Spirit refinement made daily progress in deciphering the autobiography, quite smoothly. He had currently reached the part where Hong Ronkin failed the imperial examinations 3 times, and thereafter went to South Sea State to study under foreign teachers, only to be framed because of his extraordinary talents by those who envied him. Beyond that was the story of the founding of the Mahayana sect, which should contain some substantial content. After locking the bitter cultivation and enlightenment scroll inside the lead box, Liu Yao said, "Since the commandery princess was injured at our home last time, it would be proper to pay her a visit." At those words, Liao Qi pouted and remained silent. Liao Ya thought it over and agreed it was the right thing to do, so she said, "Then let's go today." Chapter 209. Can only agree. It's the perfect gift to bring when visiting for the first time. Liu Yao found a porcelain bottle and put in its 6-10 complete immortal pills as a visiting gift. Li Pei was willing to take a bullet for Liao Qi, to sacrifice herself to save her. Liu Yao had already considered her one of his own. Moreover, having known each other for so long and getting along quite well, he naturally wouldn't be stingy at this moment. However, before leaving, he noticed that Liao Qi was looking down, gloomy and morose. Liu Yao asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, let's go." The girl was the first to get on the carriage. Liao Ya pulled Liu Yao aside, "Junior brother, go get a bottle of golden elixir brew. Grandmaster Yu is also there, it wouldn't be good to meet her empty-handed." "Oh, all right." Liu Yao didn't think much of it and went straight to get the medicinal liquor. Liao Ya quickly got on the carriage and asked her sister, "How have you thought about it? He sacrificed himself to save me, this kindness. I can only agree." Liao Qi pouted and said, "Besides, she is a good person. If it's about an alliance through marriage, then so be it." Liao Ya's heart was filled with mixed emotions, first feeling aggrieved, my sister actually agreed. If I had known, I wouldn't have made that bet with the junior brother, to be the second. At the same time, she also felt relieved. This way, being close to junior brother wouldn't carry so much guilt anymore. Liao Ya cleared her throat and earnestly advised her sister. "With Liu Yao's talent, you can't possibly monopolize him forever. You've seen his cultivation speed, frighteningly fast. Initially, we had only set the goal of reaching the blood exchange realm, but now, achieving the innate realm doesn't seem like a problem." Liao Qi understood her sister's meaning. Liu Yao's achievements would only grow higher and higher, and by then, countless women would be throwing themselves at him. She said gravely, "I know, but, even so, we still need to guard the gate well and not let just any woman in." "Of course." Liao Ya nodded repeatedly. At that moment, Liu Yao came with the liquor, and they set off. The carriage sped away, with the cold wind seeping through the windows, Liu Yao feeling very proud. The 10 complete immortal pills were extraordinarily effective. He had not been busy for nothing, and with Li's Haihang presiding, he would even further refine their potency. With this, there wouldn't be a lack of resources before reaching the golden body realm, and he had also prepared gold ahead of time. Next, as long as he kept a low profile and cultivated steadily until he reached the golden body realm, he would be ready to come out and smash all who opposed him. Thinking this, Liu Yao became even happier. Having practiced martial arts for a long time, he had started to genuinely enjoy cultivation. Not only could he gain immense power, the feeling of evolution of life after breaking through a realm was intoxicating. The progression in the martial path was like evolution, stepping forward to the pinnacle of fleshly life. And evolution is the most innate longing of life. At this time, Liu Yao suddenly noticed that the sisters had tense expressions and looked a bit serious. "So," he said with a grin, "Sister, I'm about to surpass you in cultivation level soon. Don't resent me when that happens." Hearing her junior brother's words, laden with additional meaning, Liao Ya cursed silently with a slightly stiff expression. She stole a glance at her sister and then, biting her lip, said half-concealingly, "If you can surpass me, as your senior sister, I can't be happier. Why would I resent you?" At that moment, Liao Qi spoke up, "Liu Yao, what do you think of Li Pei? She's quite nice." Liu Yao casually replied, "The commandery princess is compassionate and responsible, possessing both the refined grace of a royal lady and the hearty and generous demeanor of a martial artist. She's definitely worth getting to know deeply." Liao Qi naturally agreed with this point and laid her cards directly on the table. "Someone has taken a liking to you and wants to arrange a marriage with you. I thought about it. With both families getting along so well, we can definitely take this a step further, so I accepted on your behalf." "Ah? You accepted for me? What are you surprised about? With such a beautiful royal lady interested in you, you should be secretly thrilled." Liao Qi hugged her beloved from behind, "I am your senior sister, and I will always be your senior sister. You can't forget about me when you have a wife." Many customs in the two worlds were similar but not identical, especially regarding martial artists' matters of love and marriage. Liu Yao and Liao Qi were senior sister and junior brother, and their union was considered a match within the sect, equivalent to a husband and wife, respected and acknowledged on moral grounds. But besides his senior sister, Liu Yao could still seek a wife. The senior sister and the wife were akin to official wife and secondary wife, both belonging to Liu Yao and holding equal status. The children they bore would have no distinction of high or low, noble or common. By the time Liu Yao had figured out the intricate nuances of these relationships, Li Pei's house was already in sight. Being suddenly arranged to marry the commandery princess with the ample bosom, Liu Yao scratched his head and politely said with a smile, "This is so embarrassing." Liao Qi reached out and pinched his waist hard, "Could you not smile so happily?" "Ouch, ouch, you misunderstand, I'm just feeling a little proud that a royal lady would take notice of me." "Humph, you're always stealing glances at her ample bosom, you think I don't know?" After parking the car, they noticed something was amiss at Li Pei's house. A considerable number of black-clad servants bustled about. They looked frightened and anxious, scurrying to and fro until they noticed the visitors approaching and hastily went inside to announce their arrival. This panic-stricken behavior stood in stark contrast to their previous composure. When they finally met Li Pei in the study, she had just hung up the phone, looking somewhat dejected. Upon seeing the trio, she forced a smile and said, "You're here, there's no need to stand on ceremony. With the resilience of the blood exchange realm, my injuries will heal by tomorrow." After saying this, she rolled up her shirt sleeve to reveal her arm, fair like white lotus roots, sparkling and blemish-free, showing no sign of injury. The two sisters exchanged a glance, and Liao Qi stepped forward and said, "Sister Li Pei, regarding the arranged marriage, I am very much looking forward to becoming one family with you." Li Pei's face first showed joy, but then a touch of bitterness appeared. "Let's not talk about the arranged marriage. My father has just been stripped of all his duties." The trio was shocked upon hearing this. The commandery princess's father was the Minister of Military Affairs and Imperial Commissioner, a man of significant authority. How could he suddenly be dismissed from his duties? Liaoya asked with concern, "Sister Li, what happened?" Li Pei pointed to a telegram on the table. They picked it up and saw that its main message was, Prince Gong had been dismissed from all his duties by the Empress Dowager for disrespect and the negligence of performing rituals because his left leg entered the hall first during court, and he was ordered to return home. Checking the date, it appeared this had happened yesterday. Li Pei spoke with a sense of loss. "There were already rumors of my father being suppressed, but I never expected it to be so thorough, to be expelled from the military affairs." Liu Yao was well acquainted with these machinations. It was essentially the imperial way of checks and balances. When someone holds power for too long, rises too high, and overshadows the sovereign, suspicion and suppression often follow, as it has throughout history. He was even more astonished. The Empress Dowager's power was formidable. An influential governing prince, a political group leader, had been so easily dismissed from office. This wasn't good news, and for a moment, there was silence. Li Pei slowly spoke, "Now that my family has lost its influence, we are not worthy of marrying a master of the fetal breath realm. Let's take some time to reconsider the arranged marriage." Chapter 210. Not something that money and grain can solve. Marriage alliances are a universal tool in the civilized world to strengthen connections, from aristocratic clans to martial arts sects, and even between nations. They are very fond of this method. But there's a prerequisite. Both sides must benefit. Liu Yao had reached the spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing, and had two senior sisters who had achieved blood exchange and firmness. This represented a formidable force not to be underestimated, and not everyone qualified for a marriage alliance with them. Li Pei's family had fallen in the power struggle, and logically, they had already lost the qualifications. She even solemnly reminded them, "Having been in power for many years, my family has made countless enemies in court. There will inevitably be those who kick us while we're down, and from now on, you should no longer associate with me." Liaoya and Liao Qi exchanged glances, then both stepped forward to take Li Pei's arms, one on each side. "Sister, our friendship is based on shared interests and temperaments. We recognize you, Li Pei, as a person, not as a commandery princess or for your power and influence. Li sister, you risked your life to save us that day, and I didn't even say thank you. I truly was rude. We don't care whether your family has power or influence, we would be happy to be one family with you." Li Pei was greatly moved by their words. Having spent time in both officialdom and the noble circles, she knew how rare such friendship was. With a trembling voice, she said, "From today onwards, we are true sisters. I will treat you like my own younger sisters." The sisters vigorously nodded, their arms tightly clasped together, demonstrating a deep bond. After a while, Li Pei turned to Liu Yao and said softly, "May I request young Master Liu to massage me alone?" She wanted to talk to Liu Yao privately, and sensing this, Liaoya and Liao Qi tactfully left. Li Pei felt, some things still have to be decided by the person concerned. Once they had left, she first performed a deep curtsy, then folded her fists formally in front of her chest and said, "Young Master Lu, I am in the prime of my youth, have undergone blood exchange, and possess the firmness of spirit refinement. Now that my family has fallen on hard times, all that remains is my unsullied self. Do you still wish to give me a massage?" Her question was both straightforward and subtly implied. Liu Yao nodded decisively. "Just 2 days ago I said. Next time you want a massage, just let me know. How could I go back on my word so soon? Please be tolerant of me for the rest of my life." This was an obvious agreement, and Li Pei was overcome with joy. She had never imagined that when she found herself at rock bottom, none of the three would abandon her. A relieved and thrilled smile appeared on her face as she quickly said, "I'll first make a phone call to inform my father, so he can start making preparations, and I need to notify the Clan Affairs Bureau." Finding a husband in his 20s from the fetal breath realm could greatly boost her family's morale and halt the decline of their fortune. Li Pei felt the tension in her ease away all at once, and she breathed a deep sigh of relief. "Young Master Lu, hearing you say that has suddenly set my mind at ease." She stretched her limbs and actually began to remove her shirt, wearing only her bra. She said with a laugh, "I've been tense up until now since yesterday, and my body is quite uncomfortable. Please help me knead my muscles and bones. You've already promised me. Next time you want a massage, just say the word." "No problem, I have made some progress lately." Liu Yao, who wasn't lacking in inner breath, immediately agreed. Li Pei lay down on the desk in the position of someone taking a nap, with her arms folded back to undo the straps of her bra. As Liu Yao's hands once again touched the smooth skin of this royal lady, he inwardly praised the feel, still as good as before, even though her muscles and bones were tight, indeed having been tense and worried for a long time. Being close to someone embroiled in a whirlpool of power, one could easily be shattered into pieces, and it wasn't easy for Li Pei, who was a daughter in such a situation. Fortunately, the fear and exhaustion of the past days vanished without a trace under the 120% effort of Liu Yao's Art of the Dragon Slayer manual. Li Pei only felt her body warm and toasty as if she was about to fly into the clouds. She couldn't help but think, if I could enjoy such a massage all the time, I would truly envy no immortals, only Mandarin ducks. Supported by an abundance of inner breath, the entire Art of the Dragon Slayer manual could be completed in just 5 minutes, and after continuously stimulating the Hui Yang point, the massage was nearing its end. Young Master Lu didn't retain a bit of his inner breath, pouring all of it into the commandery princess's body, causing Li Pei to unconsciously sit up straight due to the heat. She had originally been lying down. With this straightening of her body, the full glory of her beauty was displayed. Young Master Lu exclaimed, "This is indeed quite ample." Li Pei blushed and said, "Young Master, please be patient. I am not averse to the pleasures of the boudoir, but we must wait until after the wedding. Please maintain propriety for now." Young Master Lu laughed and said, "I was too impulsive." Turning his back to her as she dressed rustlingly, Li Pei felt quite pleased with herself. Even such a spirit-refining genius appreciated her body. And unlike those frivolous women, she had preserved her virginity intact, which would surely grant her his utmost adoration. Finally, the marriage is settled. Li Pei began to imagine herself returning to the capital at the age of 20-something with her spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing, causing a sensation with her presence. Ha! Those gossipy women will surely die of jealousy. Even if her family had fallen from power, having a fetal breath realm master would mean a resurgence was merely a matter of time. Just as Li Pei had finished fastening the last button of her undergarment, someone barged in without even knocking. The only one brazen enough to do so was her master. Yu Yanmei. At that moment, Yu Yanmei's expression was unusually serious, and she opened her mouth several times without being able to speak. Li Pei had a very bad premonition. "Master, what happened? There are no outsiders here, speak freely." "The prince has been stripped of his hereditary title and confined to his mansion. Grand Scholar Bao Yun, Ministry of Personnel Secretary Li Hongzhao, and Ministry of War Secretary Jing Lian have also been dismissed and are under investigation," she said. Li Pei was struck as by lightning upon hearing her master's words. The latter individuals were all her father's supporters. In plain words, his political faction. For a prince, being stripped of his royal title and cut off from his political faction usually presaged the annihilation of his entire household. Li Pei struggled with accepting this. Her father was the previous emperor's own brother, how could he be treated so harshly? Is the Empress Dowager going to kill father? Why? Is it because he was involved in the restoration of power? Yu Yanmei replied, no, it's because he opposed the Empress Dowager's renovation of the Summer Palace. Traveling 2,000 miles to Chang'an to renovate a garden, that's just a pointless waste of resources. Her voice abruptly ceased as Li Pei suddenly shook off the negative emotions crowding her mind. This was no time for self-pity or blaming others. Her eyes clearer, her expression solemn, she said to young Master Lu. Young Master, this is more than a simple loss of power. Any further association with my family could lead to catastrophe. You need to leave immediately. Young Master Lu asked, is there anything I can do to help? I can donate grain or silver, as much as you need. Li Pei smiled and said, young master, that won't be necessary. This isn't a situation that money or provisions can solve. Chapter 211. Jing Yuan Ship Commander. Li Pei vigorously rubbed his face and said, young Master Lu, take your two sisters and leave quickly. I need to hurry back to the capital to support my father. Lu Yao sincerely suggested, if it's not feasible, don't insist on going back to face certain death. You might as well flee far away and lay low. Li Pei, feeling the genuine concern from the other party, feigned nonchalance and said, you need not worry, young master. I was too anxious earlier. Now that I've calmed down and thought it over, the Empress Dowager won't kill my father. And with master around, my life is surely without worries. Even a great grandmaster in the golden body realm can't catch up to master's movement techniques. That's good to hear. Lu Yao nodded and then added, by the way, take this. He spoke as he handed over a porcelain bottle containing the 10 complete immortal pill. Li Pei took it and sniffed, admiringly said, I almost forgot you're an alchemist. Just smelling the medicine makes my qi and blood surge, its effects must be extraordinary. Lu Yao admonished, the medicine is very potent, be careful when you take it. Li Pei carefully pocketed the porcelain bottle. At that moment, a car pulled into the yard. Yu Yanmei spoke up, it's time to go. Lu Yao, giving a fist salute to the two girls, once again instructed, prioritize staying alive, only by living is there hope. If you need help, just call, don't hesitate. Li Pei nodded vigorously, then went downstairs with his master and got into the car. The driver was the eunuch Zhang Jin, who forced a smile and greeted Lu Yao before the car slowly drove off. Lu Yao stood by the roadside seeing them off. Li Pei gazed at his figure, rolled down the window, and shouted, young Master Lu, you must wait for me, after we get through this, I'll find you for another massage. I promise I won't use my hands to cover it anymore. Hearing the other party say there'd be no need for hands to cover, a ripple of amusement went through Lu Yao, and he smiled in response, I'll be waiting at any time. At that moment, Liao Ye and Liao Qi also heard the commotion and came down to wave goodbye. Liao Qi, looking at the man she admired, was about to speak when Liao Ye stopped her, this is a struggle for power at the highest levels of the court, we can't get involved. Lu Yao sighed, still not strong enough, time to go home and train hard. The three returned home and, driven by sheer determination, trained hard for 3 days. Having cleansed his limbs, Lu Yao began to cleanse his spine. In just 3 short days, he managed to cleanse 2 vertebrae, making rapid progress. At this point, he could be considered to have fully reached the marrow cleansing realm, possessing a strength of 6,000 jin throughout his body. The sisters watched with envy at his speed. Yet despite the rapid progress in cultivation, there was still no news from Li Pei. There were neither calls nor telegrams. On the 4th day, just as Lu Yao could not help wanting to inquire at the prefectural governors, 2 unexpected visitors arrived, bearing news of developments. The visitors were Du Wenlin, the Director General of the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau, and a middle-aged man dressed in a naval officer's uniform. Du Wenlin took out a telegram and said, Princess Yongping sent this telegram, it wasn't convenient for her to call, so she asked this old man to deliver it personally. This Mr. Du and Prince Gong were both from the Western Affairs faction, naturally sharing a certain camaraderie. Lu Yao thanked him and took the telegram, which read, all is well, no need for concern. Once I've settled my mundane affairs, I'll find you again to fully exhibit my skills. After reading it, Lu Yao breathed a sigh of relief, still thinking about the massage, it seems there's no major problem. He then inquired further, Mr. Du, how is the commandery princess's family situation now? Stroking his beard, Du Wenlin said, Prince Gong truly forgot himself this time, daring to provoke the Empress Dowager's ire. But after all, he is of imperial lineage, so they only stripped him of his hereditary title and dismissed him from all positions, sparing his life. However, due to this blow, the prince's will was disheartened, and his health deteriorated. The commandery princess has been busily traversing the capital to ensure the survival of her family. Young Master Lu should also understand that in this world, those who kick a person while they are down far outnumber those who lend help amidst adversity. Liu Yao nodded, considering this an acceptable outcome. After all, he didn't care much for his sister's wealth and influence. Next, Du Wenlin cleared his throat and spoke solemnly. Young Master Lu, please forgive my bluntness. Prince Gong's faction has been completely wiped out, and there's no chance of recovery in the future. You need to plan for your future. This was the man's main purpose for visiting. In the past, since Liu Yao was too closely associated with the Li Pei family, it wasn't appropriate for others to openly recruit him. Now that her family has fallen, of course, they want to vie for such talents. Liu Yao smiled and said, Director General Du, please hold on, I am preparing to break through the martial Dao realm and have no interest in other matters. Young Master Lu is about to make a breakthrough in martial Dao, I extend my congratulations in advance. Du Wenlin wasn't very surprised. After the spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing, one could engage in inner vision and naturally progress rapidly in cultivation. Afterward, he introduced with a cheerful grin the naval officer accompanying him, this is Lin Zhongqing of the Zhenhai fleet. Commander Lin once studied abroad at the Einheit Naval Academy and upon return, served as the commander of the Jing Yuan ship, greatly valued by Li Zhongtang. Today, Director General Du shamelessly seeks your help, young Master Lu, to perform inner vision for him. Commander there refers to ship captain. This refined and mild-mannered middle-aged man, was actually the captain of the Jing Yuan ship. He did not possess the arrogant demeanor typical of military officers, and approached with a fist and palm salute, saying, Great Master Lu, I have long admired your reputation. Liu Yao returned the gesture, you flatter me, Commander Lin. Your warship is the one I have long admired, it's always mentioned in the newspapers. Hearing this, Lin Zhongqing's face revealed a bitter smile mixed with helplessness, and Director General Du's expression also stiffened a bit. But they did not dwell on the subject, and Lin Zhongqing said, Great Master Lu, I must trouble you with inner vision today. I offer detailed explanation of crumbling energy from my family collection as thanks, and I hope you won't hesitate to help. Liu Yao took the book and flipped it open, reviewing the fighting techniques written within. The main text was filled with dense annotations detailing considerations during practice. He nodded and said, You are thoughtful, Commander Linear. The name of the technique was rather common, but it was, in fact, the most elite kind. Moreover, it included annotations by several high-level practitioners, making the technique much simpler for later cultivators. This detailed explanation of crumbling energy was worthy of being housed in a sex scripture depository. It was an appropriate gift, enough to merit the intervention of someone at the fetal breath realm. Seeing Liu Yao's satisfaction, Lin Zhongqing immediately breathed a sigh of relief. If the great master had refused, it would have been quite difficult to find someone else at short notice. There weren't many experts at the fetal breath realm in the whole world, and the few nearby were ruthless in their demands, charging high prices, with some even requiring petitioners to carry out violent deeds. Lin Zhongqing immediately gave a fist and palm salute, Great Master Lu, I seem to have encountered a problem while undergoing blood exchange in my martial path, something feels wrong when I exert full strength. Liu Yao replied, No problem, I'll have a look for you. Truth be told, even without the gift or a recommendation, Liu Yao would have been willing to help. The Zhenhai naval forces of Blue Star had 11 commanders, of whom 8 laid down their lives for their country, and 2 fought until their ships were sunk, giving rise to numerous national heroes. Despite the ultimate defeat, the glorious deeds of these patriots couldn't be erased. Watching the 2 men, one loosening his clothes, the other reaching out to touch. Du Wenlin said with modesty, I will go enjoy the scenic beauty of Jin Garden. Commander Lin, we are even now, yes. Lin Zhongqing nodded, we're even. Upon hearing this, Liu Yao realized the 2 must have had some prior dealings. Chapter 212. Can't help in the vast sea? Liu Yao placed his hand on the Tenzong A cup ointment of the visitor and let his mind force sink down to probe the insides of the body. Wherever the mind force investigated, the corresponding image would be reflected in his mind. Lin Zhongqing seemed a bit nervous, wanting to speak but afraid to disturb the great master during his exertion. He hesitated several times, wanting to say something but stopping himself. It wasn't until a few minutes had passed that Liu Yao took the initiative to speak. Has Captain Lin just entered the blood exchange realm? Orders on a ship are mostly given by shouting, and Lin Zongqing's voice was extremely loud and firm. Great Master Lu's insight is as sharp as an autumn hair. It is indeed not even a full year since I broke through the realm. Liu Yao had already found the cause of the ailment. Your foundation is unstable, and the marrow in your arms and shoulders has degenerated into yellow mortal marrow. If you continue like this, there's the risk of your realm regressing. Lin Zongqing's face changed, and he suddenly understood. In my youth, I was fierce and aggressive, addicted to fighting. Moreover, I took the jade marrow pill bestowed by His Majesty when I made my breakthrough. He lamented in his heart, when I was young studying in Einheit, if one didn't act fierce and aggressive in such a place, they would be forced to pay the blood tax daily, bleeding for the demon beasts to feast upon. I fought for my life to learn skills to serve the country. But an unstable foundation is a fact, and I must think of other ways. Lin Zhongqing wore a look of satisfaction and was about to rise and take his leave. A spirit refining expert's inner vision was akin to a hospital examination, and the subsequent treatment cost would be even more expensive, which he couldn't afford with his meager means. However, suddenly, a massive amount of inner breath flowed from Liu Yao's hand, as he simultaneously said, I will help you refine once. Remember the path of my refinement process carefully, then perform it daily by yourself, and that should stabilize your realm. Great Master Liu, I possess nothing of value. Lin Zhongqing explained that he had no money to pay for the consultation. Liu Yao commanded, focus on sensing the inner breath. Lin Zhongqing stopped talking and felt the other's inner breath refining path and method, invoking his own inner breath to imitate it, firmly memorizing several key points of the refinement process. Waves of stabbing pain and itchiness came, indicating issues indeed in the forearm and shoulder areas. After several circulations, both of them ended their exertion and regulated their breath. Lin Zhongqing opened his eyes first, feeling unprecedentedly good. No more incessant weakness from his bones, and the peculiar bodily signs caused by the possible regression of his realm completely vanished. He inwardly admired, the guidance of a spirit refining expert is truly well deserved. I have struggled for half a year without finding a solution, yet he managed to cure the illness in just a few short minutes. By that time, Liu Yao had also finished regulating his breath. How martial artists practice martial arts is like blind men crossing a log bridge, while a spirit refining expert can lead one across the river. That is why the fetal breath realm is highly sought after. Lin Zhongqing bowed deeply to the ground. Many thanks to Great Master Liu for the assistance. If there's anything you need in the future, please feel free to instruct me. Liu Yao helped him up, saying, I ask of you only one thing. Lin Zongqing's expression grew solemn. With such a favor from the other party, there must be something he sought after. A spirit refining expert's request would be no easy thing to fulfill. But he then heard Liu Yao continue, I've been reading in the newspapers that the Izumo people have been quite exuberant lately. I have a grudge against them. If you get the chance in the future, kill more of them for me, that's all. Hearing that this was the request, Lin Zhongqing first breathed a sigh of relief, then smiled wryly. Rest assured, Great Master Liu. That opportunity is about to come. Izumo has sent a large force to invade Goryeo, with their wild ambitions laid bare for all to see. We are about to go to war with them, and my visit to the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau is precisely for purchasing cannonballs. Liu Yao nodded, but noticing the wry smile on the other's face, he asked with curiosity, Captain Lin seems somewhat unconfident. Lin Zhongqing thought since this young Master Liu was also a man of temperament, and since almost everyone knew about the issue, he simply spoke candidly. The Imperial Court has repeatedly cut the naval budget to use for the longevity feast. Currently, the ships are in dire need of cannonballs, averaging only 22 rounds per gun compared to the required backup of 50 rounds, which is less than half. Liu Yao exclaimed in surprise, the war is about to begin, and yet the fleet doesn't even have enough cannonballs. Exactly. I came to the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau to try my luck, but the funds here have already been allocated for the birthday celebration, leaving not a single cannonball. Lin Zhongqing admitted frankly, I was so frustrated that I pestered Master Du, but even he couldn't conjure up cannonballs out of thin air. Fortunately, he said he could refer a spirit refining expert to make up for it, so he brought me to you. Only then did Liu Yao understand why the two had visited together. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Lin Zhongqing took out his pocket watch, looked at the time, and said apologetically, "I didn't realize I had wasted so much of Great Master Lu's time. I'm truly sorry. Please rest assured, no matter how difficult it is, it's nothing but a brave fight against the enemy. I will certainly vent your frustration on your behalf." Lin Zhongqing joined Du Wenlin in taking his leave. Du Wenlin mistakenly thought that Liu Yao had helped them as a favor to him, which greatly lifted his spirits. He felt that personally delivering the telegram had been the right decision. He even promised, "I will certainly keep an eye on Prince Gong in the imperial city for you and inform young Master Liu in time if anything arises." After the guests had left, Liu Yao sat in the pavilion, where Suarya dutifully brought him the newspaper. In the past, this task had always been snatched away by the three spiritual sparrowhawks, but today they had gone off to play, and she finally seized the chance. The young girl sweetly said, "Uncle Master, there's going to be a grand birthday celebration in the imperial city soon." Liu Yao nodded as he took the newspaper with a smile. The front page was all about the Empress Dowager's birthday news. This was no ordinary person's birthday party with a table of food and drinks, it was a grand celebration organized by the power of the entire nation. For this event, taxes had been increased and official titles sold years in advance. In recent days, several eunuchs from within the palace had been dispatched to request donations and purchase rare treasures. Ndihe, whom Liu Yao had just seen 2 days ago, was among them. These eunuchs also took the opportunity to line their pockets, which caused a great deal of resentment. At this moment, Liu Yao was reading the birthday message the emperor wrote for the Empress Dowager. "In the year of fortuity, serenity and elegance abound, with maternal grace, you guide our sovereign child, such benevolence, how splendid, rivaling emperors of old like Yao and Tang. Guide our sovereign child, rivaling emperors of old like Yao and Tang." Liu Yao read these lines with a sarcastic expression. The war is on the horizon, generals are desperately searching for cannonballs, and yet the imperial court is still basking in peace and prosperity, busying themselves with celebration preparations and garden renovations. So, the question arises. Should I meddle in the other world's first Sino-Japanese war? But the key to the first Sino-Japanese war lies at sea. Izumo, an island nation, does not share borders. Once their navy is defeated, the invasion is naturally lost too. But on the vast sea, I really can't be of help. The steel fortresses with thousands of tons of displacement dominate, with large caliber cannons of 200 to 300 mm firing at each other. What can I do against that? Moreover, I am currently diligently practicing to advance to the blood exchange realm, so I shouldn't be running around carelessly. Everything else is illusory, only power is truly reliable. Liu Yao knew well that a bunch of people were flattering and supporting him, even Du Wenlin and others lowered their stance, not because of his good character or wealth but because of the strength that came with the fetal breath realm. For a moment, he actually found it hard to decide. Chapter 213. Total Outbreak. Lin Zhongqing was spot on. The newspapers the next day carried the headline of an official declaration of war between Shun country and Izumo. In fact, before the news broke, the two countries had already skirmished in secret, with neither side gaining an advantage. However, most people in the imperial court and the country held an optimistic view of the war. Izumo might be a small country, akin to an insignificant player previously not worthy of much attention, now audaciously attempting to snack on something much larger than itself, even formulating something called the strategy for conquest. It was truly an absurdity. Moreover, the Zhenhai fleet was reputed as the #1 navy in the Far East, so this battle was sure to have no suspense. Liu Yao quickly flipped through the newspaper, feeling that these people were too optimistic. Fortunately, there were also enlightened individuals who pointed out the crux of the problem. Izumo has spent 60% of its national fiscal revenue on developing its navy, fostering high morale throughout the nation. With our country as its target, it is prepared for a war that will bet the fate of their nation. The total displacement of their navy has already surpassed ours, we must not underestimate the enemy in this battle. The statement was accurate, but unfortunately, the greatest event right now was the Empress Dowager's grand birthday banquet. Newspapers were brimming with reports of the birthday celebration preparations, lighting, and other decorative arrangements. Expenses for new seating and golden palanquins were so high, they could nearly fund the construction of a new Zhenhai fleet. As the timelines between the two worlds began to converge once more, Liu Yao had been racking his brain lately, trying to come up with something to throw into the mix. Must be warships that can fight and are easy to buy. Anti-ship missiles would be great, but the other world lacks satellites, and I do not have the conditions to launch them. Modern missiles aren't just about pressing a button, these 4-5 meter long objects are not simple to operate in practice. And purchasing such items would certainly attract the attention of Blue Star nations. Having the Foreign Affairs Bureau watching is trouble enough, it's not the time to reveal myself yet. While Liu Yao pondered, he did not neglect his cultivation. Presently, out of 26 vertebrae, astonishingly, 4 had been cleansed, catching up to Liao Ye's progress, and he had even helped Liao Qi cleanse the marrow of her limbs. Apart from his own cultivation, he also massaged the 2 girls every day. The women, perceiving such rocket-like progress in cultivation, were so astonished they couldn't close their mouths, almost finding it hard to believe. Liao Ye, touching her own back in wonder, said, "This is too fast. 5 days have equaled 3 months of my hard training." Liao Qi even hugged her beloved's arm and said, "Liu Yao, you should advance in cultivation yourself. Don't focus on me, I'm not in a hurry." Liu Yao took a moment to regulate his breathing and exhaled a breath of foul air. "This is nothing. Once we solve the side effects of the 10 complete pill, progress will be even swifter." Currently, she could only take 3. Taking 4 would leave Liao Qi unable to leave the bed the next day. However, even taking 3 had some effects, and Liao Qi had been struggling to serve him recently. Secretly, she had acquired some adult-only picture books, hoping to learn some genuine skills to alleviate their stress. At this moment, the 3 of them finished their day's cultivation and sat in the pavilion, observing the scenery and resting. Liao Ya asked, "Has Sister Li not sent another telegram? Why doesn't she make a phone call?" Liu Ya replied, "No more telegrams. Phone calls would have to be transferred, and operators could overhear the conversation. She doesn't want to cause us any trouble, so she's reduced the contact." Phones these days were still of the crank-operated kind, dial phones hadn't yet been introduced. Liao Ya muttered, "Oh, I wonder when she will be able to return. She must be feeling terrible right now. I can understand that feeling though. After father died, my family also plummeted from the clouds into an abyss." Liao Qi took her sister's hand and gently said, "It's all in the past, we are having a good time now." Liu Ya reassured, "Don't worry, Li Pei should be back in no time. Wang Mansion will at most suffer some loss of benefits, but no lives are at risk." After chatting for a while, the sisters knelt down to massage Liu Yao's feet. They knew their junior brother enjoyed this and would occasionally indulge him. The delicate touch coming from his feet, before his eyes were 2 faces as charming as flowers, and 2 pairs of eyes that looked both annoyed and pleased. Liu Yao contentedly closed his eyes, feeling that if it weren't for all the mess and various bastards causing trouble, to just grow stronger every day with a few girls and live a happy life, it would really be quite nice. At that moment, Suer grabbed a newspaper and ran over, followed by 3 squawking spiritual sparrowhawks chasing after her. The little girl was panting heavily as she ran, "Uncle Master, the newspaper." She stood tightly next to Liu Yao, and after finishing her sentence, she turned back and glared provocatively. The 3 spiritual sparrowhawks glowered back resentfully, deeply annoyed that this little girl had stolen their job of delivering the newspaper. Liao Ya stood up and scolded, "No fighting, nor is there any need to bully others." The 3 spiritual sparrowhawks came over humbly to please her, bowing their heads and looking obedient. They also carried a bit of instinct, having ranked the people in the house. Liu Yao first, the 2 ladies tied for second. The spiritual sparrowhawks considered themselves superior to Suer, often scaring and bullying her. The little girl had a very unpleasant time hanging out with them. Liu Yao said with doting laughter, "Come here, all of you, I'll give you a massage." Not until he finished massaging Suer and the spiritual sparrowhawks did Liu Yao begin to read today's newspaper. And the headline was glaring. "Pyongyang has fallen." In the capital's streets, festooned with lanterns and streamers, the holiday atmosphere was in full swing. Inside the Wenhua Hall, a small court deliberation was taking place. Although there were not many participants, they were all top figures of the imperial court. At that moment, the hall was silent except for a little eunuch reading a report. Izumo launched a 4-pronged attack on Pyongyang, Commander Yezhi Shao abandoned the city and fled, and was then ambushed. Our army was defeated, and Pyongyang has fallen. The news of Pyongyang's fall created an awkward moment in the room. Izumo's invasion of Goryeo was one thing, but Goryeo, being a vassal state of the Shun dynasty, deserved aid. However, no one had expected a defeat, much less a catastrophic one. Emperor Yong'an said angrily, yes, he Xiao is a foolish and incompetent coward, a tiger scared by the enemy, he deserves death. After all, the government forces had the advantage of both terrain and popular support. The officials and civilians of Goryeo greatly supported the Shun army, it was hard to imagine such a loss. But after the emperor finished speaking, no one echoed his words. After a while, only the imperial mentor, Elder Wang, took a stand with a stiff neck. Izumo, a trifling country, our royal forces have only suffered a minor defeat, reshaping our troops should resolve the issue at once. Afterward, Elder Wang turned to an old man and said, Li Zhongtang, it is time for the long-trained navy to be put to use. Deploy the Genhai fleet. Defeating the Izumo navy will lead to their self-destruction. Without its navy, Izumo, being an island country, would be useless no matter how well they fought on land. But Li Zhongtang found it difficult and said, deploying the fleet will incur substantial costs and could escalate into full-scale war between the two nations, which would be unwise. The meaning of his words was clear to everyone. The saying goes, when the cannon fires, silver flies by the tens of thousands, there simply wasn't enough money to deploy the fleet. Recently, in preparation for the emperor's longevity feast and the construction of the summer palace, even the imperial court had to take loans from foreign banks to maintain operations. Elder Wang and Li Zhongtang argued back and forth, while everyone else remained silent, keeping to their own thoughts. As the young emperor was growing up, it was time for him to take the reins of power, and it was the most dangerous time for the transfer of authority from the emperor to the empress dowager. It was wiser to stay out of trouble to avoid a fall from grace like Prince Gong. At that moment, there was movement behind the beaded curtain where the empress dowager sat. Chapter 214. Rainbow Drone. How has the great Shun kingdom become so impoverished? The empress dowager asked, pointing to the memorials one by one, sighing, how is it that there's not even money to repair a garden? Everyone focused spirit to look, and they were all memorials from high officials in the imperial court, requesting the cessation of the summer palace's construction. Emperor Yong'an promptly replied, the empress dowager has toiled for the nation, enjoying a nice garden is only right, there's no need to mind this clamor, your son will make sure you get your wish. The emperor's mind was now filled with the desire to complete the garden, so that this enchantress could return to politics. The emperor is indeed filial, the empress dowager said with satisfaction, nodding her head, then continued. Minister Li Zhongtang, hasten the military campaign, lest it delay the celebration, let the fleet set forth. Li Zhongtang bowed to take his leave, but was worried about where the money would come from. The empress dowager went on, neither the garden nor the longevity feast can be stopped, this old body has little else to look forward to. After these two matters are settled, I intend to retire peacefully, do not add to my troubles. Li Zhongtang hesitated for a moment, then said, then this old minister bravely asks for 2 generals to support the campaign and contend with Izumo's land and naval offensive. He was asking the imperial court for 2 experts to hold the fort, a characteristic of warfare in the other world, to guard against enemy assaults by powerful adversaries. The empress dowager rubbed her forehead and said, those below the golden body realm you may appoint at your discretion. I'm tired, let that be all for now. Remember. Swift battle, swift resolution. This servant obeys the decree. After the meeting had adjourned, Li Zhongtang inwardly lamented. The great Shun dynasty was declining year by year. This time with the military support, those in the golden body realm were simply beyond command, several great grandmasters hadn't even attended the imperial meeting, leaving only the innates as options. But the innates were no easy targets either, each one acting high and mighty, as if they were the center of the universe. Who could they find to willingly take on such a grueling task on the battlefield without significant perks? To employ these individuals required tangible benefits, out of the question were hollow promises of promotions and titles. As he was worrying, a man with a round, smiling face approached him. Minister Li, are you troubled about whom to choose? Prince Li, what advice do you have for me? The newcomer was none other than Li Zi, who had replaced the fallen Prince Gong and had just been appointed as Minister of Military Affairs. Prince Li. Prince Li said with a beaming smile, have you heard of Yu Yanmei, the innate grandmaster known throughout the imperial city? The Moon Shadow Sword? Fast as lightning, her swordplay as stunning as a wild goose in flight. She's perfect to command the battleships. Li Zhongtang looked intently at the man before him. Prince Gong's residence still maintained a semblance of dignity, thanks to the presence of Grandmaster Yu. If something were to happen to her, it would be nothing short of a catastrophe for Prince Gong's family. The man before him, eager to eliminate future troubles, was ready to kick his kinsman when he was down, his methods much harsher than outsiders, pulling the rug out from under them. Ruthless indeed. It seemed Prince Li was keen on having Grandmaster Yu die on the battlefield. Commanding a battleship was among the most dangerous jobs, hundreds of kilograms of cannonballs whizzing by, never knowing when you might be blown to bits. Prince Li added, Grandmaster Yu is very fond of her sole apprentice and is sure to obey. Minister Li might want to consider this well, Sir Alexander would also thank you for it. Li Zhongtang, expressionless, bowed and said, Thank you for the guidance, Prince Li. This old official will go and request the decree immediately. No sooner had the whispers started around the imperial city, than Liu Yao received a phone call informing him, directly from Du Wenlin. Young Master Liu, there's trouble at Prince Gong's residence. Grandmaster Yu has suddenly agreed to command the Zaiwan warship for a sea campaign. This is extremely dangerous, and there seems to be coercion at play in the court. Thank you for letting me know, Minister Du. I owe you a favor. Du Wenlin, think nothing of it. However, I still must advise you, young Master Liu, not to put all your eggs in one basket. Be adaptable. That's the key. Being stationed on a warship was incredibly dangerous. 300 to 400 pound cannonballs zipped past, particularly those with a caliber of 300 mm+, if one landed within 5 meters, obliteration was guaranteed. Moreover, naval guns preferred to be in double or triple mounts, firing salvos that would deplete half a health bar from someone in the golden body realm if hit directly. After hanging up the phone, Liu Yao sighed, if the timelines of the two worlds align, then Yu Yanmei is truly in danger. If she dies, Li Pei will be heartbroken, and life will become even harder. It seems I need to make a trip there. Fortunately, I already have a contingency plan. Liu Yao went to the storeroom to grab 2 bags of money, then returned to Blue Star. Liu Yao had to leave immediately without even staying 2 days in the newly purchased villa on Blue Star. Although the two worlds were largely similar, some details differed. Who knew when the battle in the Yellow Sea would start, so speed was essential. First, Liu Yao contacted Li Lei, asking her to take the 2 bags of cash away and invest it all into the laboratory. Since Li's Haihang was capable, Liu Yao didn't care about the money, whatever could increase the speed of his cultivation was worth discussing. Next, he dialed Alexander's number, who was far away in Yakolun. Upon connection, a warm voice came through, "Ha, dear Liu, I'm delighted to receive your call. Do you have another order? Indeed, is this line secure? Rest assured, after all, we were once the largest military factory of the Iron Alliance, there won't be any issues with confidentiality. In fact, I'm calling you from an underground nuclear bunker. That's good to hear. I need a rainbow military drone, the kind that Xia country just developed and is now selling hot. Help me order one, I'll come to pick it up." There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a hearty laugh. "Ha, dear Liu, rainbow drones are not difficult to acquire, but I need to deal with a bunch of officials and get clearance to import one, which isn't cheap. The drone's original price is $30 million, and I charge a $5 million commission. That's fair, but this money won't be easy to earn. I need to see the merchandise by tomorrow night, can you do it?" "Don't worry, I will meet all of the client's demands. I will contact the Rainbow Drone sales team right now and guarantee you won't be disappointed." After hanging up, Liu Yao breathed a sigh of relief. The item he intended to buy was the Rainbow 5 Reconnaissance Strike Drone. This was no toy but a military-grade product capable of carrying missiles and aerial bombs. It was Xia country's latest military drone, popular in over 20 countries and regions worldwide. Many nations, so poor they could only afford X, could now have an air force for a modest sum of money, to everyone's delight. Liu Yao had thought it through clearly, he wouldn't be of much use in a large-scale naval battle, and it was far too dangerous. The top priority was safety, and if he wanted to cause trouble, it would have to be from over 100 kilometers away. This military drone, which didn't require satellites and could operate over 200 kilometers relying on ground stations alone, was perfect. Li Lei had come to take the money shortly after he hung up. She was very obedient, sensing that Liu Yao had something to attend to. She refrained from staying to play despite her desire and simply gave a hug. Liu Yao rushed to the airport and chartered a flight to Yakolun. Not long after the plane took off, the Foreign Affairs Bureau received information about the flight. Chapter 215.2 Minutes to Solve. A handsome blonde man came up to a cargo truck and politely knocked on the back door. The cargo door opened, and he nodded and casually walked in. Inside was a small armory, complete with long and short guns, with already 5 people picking out their equipment. "I'm number 4 from Paris, pleased to meet you all," the handsome man said, as he also picked out a handgun. After disassembling it for a check and fitting the sleeve, he tested the spring's tension and politely smiled as he said, "Speaking of which, us lone wolves are actually gathered here together, just to deal with a single target." The other team members were still straightening out their equipment, and no one responded. These people were all dressed in plain clothes, appearing relaxed. Though they were holding guns, they seemed as indifferent as office workers hustling for the subway with briefcases in hand. Number 4 was clearly a chatterbox, talking non-stop, "The target's from Xia country, Xia country's agents are tricky to deal with, slippery, always finding a way to cause you heavy casualties in the most ordinary places." His companions initially ignored him until he suddenly asked, "Are you all thorns too? Do you also get headaches? What painkillers do you use?" A few icy stares glanced over, and number 4 stopped his prattle. At that moment, voices came through the earpieces everyone was wearing. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Commander Janice. Please be aware that this mission is a Level 22 classified operation, with strict orders against any solo contact with the target." Number 4 whistled, "Even the President is Level 23, looks like this will be fun. The target has very strong personal capabilities and has records of single-handedly wiping out an entire Delta Force squad." Number 4 pointed at a few teammates and laughed, "Those present here have probably all had similar experiences. Commander, you just need to sip your coffee and wait for us to finish the job. I'll bring you your precious baby home safe and sound." The man was extremely arrogant, but Janice did not mind. All 6 of them were top-level field agents, living legends. Each had achievements of fighting against 100 alone, destroying armed forces on their own, even assassinating high-profile figures under the heavy guard of an army. Many action films in Hollywood are based on their exploits. More importantly, these agents had all participated in the Foreign Affairs Bureau's code-named Blackthorn Human Enhancement Experiments. Since World War II, countries like Star Alliance Country and Iron Alliance have been conducting human experiments semi-publicly to develop super soldiers. These 6 agents were from the batch with the least side effects. This mission was also a practical test, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The side effects were minor, but they did exist, especially in terms of personality management. However, compared to the enhancements they gained, these flaws were insignificant. Janice said, "The plane carrying the target is about to land. This operation is unauthorized, be careful to conceal your identities." The 6 agents headed straight into the terminal building, with a simple plan. Subdue and take the target away as soon as he disembarked, no nonsense, no dilly-dallying. As soon as Liu Yao walked out of the terminal building, he sensed 6 malicious gazes surrounding him. "Is this all the people they've sent?" He continued to walk forward unperturbed, when 2 casually dressed men approached him head-on. These were agents number 5 and number 6, who got close to Liu Yao and swiftly and covertly thrust their hands out. The rings on their fingers were poison needles, and their speed was so fast that ordinary people couldn't even see the motion. Liu Yao was slightly surprised, not bad, barely at the bone-tempering realm. In the face of such lightning-fast attacks, he merely lifted his hand lightly, barely moving it to push on the arms of the 2 men. The agents' poison rings suddenly changed their targets, stabbing into each other's bodies. The neurotoxin acted quickly, and both individuals fell to the ground foaming at the mouth, as if struck by an epileptic seizure. Someone nearby took notice and hurried to call for an ambulance. Liu Yao, unfazed, had already walked far away. This scene left Janice, who was monitoring the area, along with the remaining 4 agents, utterly astonished. These agents, after enhancement, possessed physical strength and reflex speeds far beyond those of ordinary people. It should not have been so easy and casual for their opponent to evade and even counter-attack. Liu Yao, with an unhurried pace, approached a man in a trench coat. This was agent number 3, who was carrying a briefcase. Upon seeing Liu Yao approach, agent number 3 reached into his briefcase and grasped the inside pistol, firing through the bag. A soft pop was heard, and a small hole appeared in the briefcase as a bullet spun at high velocity from the muzzle. Liu Yao slightly turned his head, letting the bullet purposelessly fly into the air. Agent number 3's pupils constricted, but he did not panic. Instead, he calmly fired repeatedly. His aim was precise, targeting the chest or head with each shot. Liu Yao shook his head and twisted his shoulders, dodging 3 successive bullets with movements smaller than those of square dancing. Just then, a woman carrying a Coke happened to walk past, and her beverage bottle exploded when hit by a bullet, giving her quite the scare. Liu Yao had already closed in on his enemy, casually waving his hand as if shooing away a fly. Agent number 3 was about to turn the gun muzzle when he felt Liu Yao's palm brush against his chest. His eyes suddenly fixed, a severe pain erupted in his chest, and his body lost all strength, slowly collapsing to the ground with the briefcase in his arms. Stay tuned with Empire. Without looking back, Liu Yao continued toward his next target. 2 women together. These were agents number 1 and number 2, who quickly ducked into a restroom. Liu Yao brazenly pursued them, and just as he rounded the corner, 2 silenced pistols emerged and fired without warning. The distance between them was less than 5 meters. At such proximity, even an immortal would have been riddled with bullets. But once Liu Yao entered the spirit-refining state, the enemy's attempts were glaringly slow at only 0.3 times his speed, and all attempts to hit him were futile. Liu Yao locked onto the direction of the enemy's gun barrels and simply moved his body slightly, allowing the bullets to pass by harmlessly, only stirring a few strands of his hair. If an outsider were present, they would surely curse these 2 agents as ineffective, only good at outlining the human figure. Yet it was agents number 1 and number 2 who were truly shocked and terrified, as they had finally confirmed. Liu Yao really could dodge bullets. The next second, with a little force in his legs, Liu Yao swiftly passed by the 2 female agents, his index fingers touching each of their necks. Without a second glance, Liu Yao walked away, while the 2 female agents held each other, motionless in the corner. Someone coming to use the restroom saw them and mistook them for a couple indulging in intimacy, hastily leaving them some private space. At this point, only 2 minutes had passed since Liu Yao's appearance, and now only the handsome, blonde agent number 4 remained. He stood on the 2nd floor of the terminal building, watching in disbelief as everything unfolded before him. 6 super agents, strengthened to rival the top athletes and with neural reflexes of only 80 milliseconds, were all dead but for him in just 2 minutes. In this bustling airport terminal, the adversary had taken down 5 agents in succession without causing any disturbance. What an immense gap in ability! And the most terrifying revelation struck agent number 4 when he suddenly realized that, from over 100 meters away, his opponent was looking right at him. Chapter 216. Got the drone. Janice's voice came through the earpiece. Agent 4, withdraw immediately, the target's strength is beyond expectation. What on earth is this monster? Agent 4 turned and ran without hesitation. As he walked, he still managed to steal from the people he passed by. This was the terminal building of an airport, and many people were dragging luggage of all sizes. Agent 4 pilfered a scarf here, a skirt there, tied up his long blonde hair, and softened his features to make them look gentle. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a blonde beauty with a scarf tied around her neck, a complete change of gender. If he were being followed, the pursuer would definitely be dumbfounded to realize they'd lost the target. But Liu Yao was using divine sense perception to track people, relying on tracking their brainwaves. It's useless to change gender, let alone transform into a dog. As Agent 4 walked, he suddenly realized someone was wrapping an arm around his waist. How is this possible? Who exactly are you? He wouldn't be as shocked if he got shot dead by a surprise attack. He had been vigilant while withdrawing. When did this person get close? Within less than 0.3 seconds, Agent 4 drew his gun to shoot while simultaneously swinging his fist towards the opponent's throat. However, Liu Yao's hands were already clasped like a blade, striking his heart before the other could react. Agent 4 immediately lost his strength, as Liu Yao guided him to sit in a chair in the waiting area. Liu Yao posed him to look as if he were resting in the chair, then removed the earpiece from the man's ear, and asked, "Is that you, Janice? What an extraordinary performance! Mr. Liu, I suddenly feel that even without the formula, I must capture you to uncover the secrets of your body. You must have undergone Xia country's most advanced physical enhancement." Liu Yao smiled silently. The display of physical prowess was deliberately subdued, otherwise, his true capabilities would be much more terrifying. The person you sent this time was too weak, no fun at all. You might want to consider bringing some heavy weapons next time, like missiles, tanks, or something. Liu Yao wanted to trick the other side into delivering equipment to save him the hassle of shopping around. Janice mistook this for an insult and snorted coldly, "Mr. Liu, the game has just begun. Let's wait and see." At that moment, her face looked exceptionally grim. Capturing the target was proving more difficult than imagined, and the mission could hardly proceed in secret. Liu Yao sneered, determined to show the other party a lesson in due time. Running towards the Mashav tank factory, Liu Yao, now in the advanced stages of the marrow cleansing realm, had a speed of around 120 km per hour, resembling a small car when sprinting full speed, with the strong wind howling around him. When he was close to his destination, he opened the door to the other world and sent back the truck filled with money that Alexander from the former Steel Alliance had given him, the truck produced during their time. Upon meeting, as soon as Liu Yao stepped off the truck, Alexander gave him a warm bear hug. "Liu, knowing you're in a hurry, I contacted the drone sales team as quickly as possible, getting them to give me a plane that was supposed to be sold to Mali. Come on, let's test it out." Alexander took Liu Yao to a vast open space at the factory, where a strangely shaped drone was already waiting quietly. This Rainbow 5 was Xia country's latest reconnaissance and combat drone. It was not small at all, with a wingspan of over 20 meters. But what it gained in size, it matched in unparalleled payload capacity. The drone's takeoff weight exceeded 3 tons, and it could be equipped with up to 16 weapons. Xia country's weapons firepower had always been satisfying. For many poor and small nations, biting the bullet to buy one equated to having an air force. Because many of the clients came from impoverished and backward nations, operating the Rainbow 5 drone wasn't as difficult as one might imagine. After all, if Uncle Black could operate it, it surely couldn't be too hard. At the moment, Liu Yao was sitting in front of a simple control panel, maneuvering the drone as it took off and soared through the sky. The control panel consisted of a joystick and 2 monitors, and there was even a keyboard. The F1 F12 keys on the keyboard were for functions such as laser targeting and missile launching. If a mouse was included, the whole setup would resemble playing games in an internet cafe, which was really thoughtful. Yan Mei laughed heartily, "Liu, you really are an expert with drones, flying them both fast and steady. How about that? I've even prepared a ground station inside a truck for you so you can take off anytime, anywhere. You really thought of everything. The money is in the car I brought, and it's yours now." Liu Yao was very satisfied. With the ground control station, even without satellites, the drone could be operated within a range of 200 kilometers. Alexander rushed to the truck immediately. Seeing the truck filled with cash, his face flushed with excitement, he picked up a stack of notes, inhaled deeply, and yelled back, "Liu, our transactions are always so smooth. If you need anything in the future, be sure to contact me. I'll provide the highest quality service. Pleasure doing business." After confirming there were no issues, Liu Yao returned to the other world with the full set of drone equipment. In the other world, Jin Garden. The 2 sisters had already packed their bags and, upon hearing the honk of their junior brother's horn, they were the first to grab their stuff, hop in the car, and set off. 3 spiritual sparrowhawks were screeching in the sky, they would also accompany them on this trip. Sitting in the truck, the sisters were curious about the contents of the vehicle. Liao Qi asked, "What is this thing you brought back? Is that a torpedo?" The drone, with its wings detached, was placed in the cargo hold, looking quite peculiar. The anti-tank missiles, at a cursory glance, did indeed resemble torpedoes, albeit much smaller in size. Liu Yao laughed, "It's a very powerful thing, you'll find out in a couple of days. Enjoy new tales from Empire." At the Lushun port of the Shun dynasty, towering iron-clad warships were slowly leaving the harbour. Accompanied by the deep sound of foghorns, smoke billowed from the stacks of the battleships while countless seabirds circled overhead, preying on the schools of fish driven out by the ships. Yu Yanmei stood on the watchtower of the Xiwen ship, captivated by the sight before her. She seemed greatly interested and kept watching long after the coastline had disappeared. It was with these steel monsters that humanity could leave the land and venture into the sea. But the sea was still synonymous with danger. In the distant waters, a massive shark was tearing apart an equally gigantic whale, staining a large swathe of the ocean red with the turmoil of the waves. This shark was nearly as large as the whale, measuring about 20 meters in length, its jaws full of ferocious teeth ripping its prey to shreds in mere moments. At that moment, a man dressed in Navy Admiral's uniform approached and said, "That's a megalodon, with a fondness for hunting whales." Yu Yanmei nodded coolly in acknowledgement, Captain Deng. The newcomer was the captain of the Zaiwan, resolute in expression and boisterous in voice, with a black dog following behind him. He gave a fist and palm salute to the lady before him, with Grandmaster Yu on board, our ship is impregnable. However, some Izumo ninjas are reckless with their lives, attempting to infiltrate under the cover of creatures like the Megalodon, so Grandmaster Yu must be careful. Yu Yanmei responded softly, rest assured, Captain Deng. A glint of cold light flickered on her steel sword. Chapter 217. On the second day out, Liu Yao and his two companions, half sitting, half lifting, had already reached the territory of Lais Hu. During this time, they didn't slack on their cultivation for a bit. They trained diligently every day. Lifting the cart was the best exercise. The boxcar, modified from a regular truck by Alexander, weighed close to 8 tons, including the drone. For the 3 people, lifting it over mountains and across ridges was anything but easy. Especially when walking on soft ground, their legs would sink halfway into the earth, and those steep slopes on the mountains, almost at a 90-degree angle, required all the strength they could muster to climb. Continuous traveling and arduous training not only covered the vehicle in mud until its original color was unrecognizable, but the 3 of them also looked like mud monkeys. At that moment, unable to bear it any longer, they stopped by a small river to clean themselves up. The 3 of them plunged into the river for a swim. After washing up, the sisters stripped off their tops to reveal their smooth and beautiful backs, and lay down side by side in the cab, letting Liu Yao massage and knead them. Liu Yao slowly executed the art of the Dragon Slayer manual. With his cultivation in the fetal breath realm deepening day by day, and with the assistance of the 10 complete immortal pill, he was now able to multitask. Giving massages to both girls at once, he felt the equally soft and silky touch of their skin, and for a moment, he couldn't tell whose skin was more tender. Exhausted from the day's labors, Liao Qi soon fell asleep to the warmth of her beloved's massage, softly snoring before long. Meanwhile, Liao Ya was caught between shock and doubt. She had been stuck at the 5th section of her spinal refinement and thought it would take 2 to 3 months to break through the bottleneck. But at this moment, under her junior brother's guidance with her inner breath, being cleansed and refined over and over, it took only 15 minutes to break through this bottleneck. Seeing Liao Ya's astonished expression, Liu Yao proudly said, I've examined Li Pei's body and the blood exchange mirror no longer holds any secrets from me. Sister, if you encounter any bottlenecks, just let me know. Giving massages to Li Pei many times wasn't just for his own enjoyment, he also learned a great deal. Liao Ye, covering her chest as she rose, remarked, Junior brother, your cultivation has surpassed mine now, right? The technique you just used couldn't have been mastered by simply witnessing it. Liu Yao nodded, I've just begun refining the 9th section of my spine. That was fast. Yes, and I'm also trying to synchronize my brain marrow and spinal cord. After all, the brain is the sea of marrow and the gathering place of marrow, the spinal cord and brain marrow rise and fall in unison, communicating with each other. Hearing Liu Yao's words, Liao Ya cautioned, doing so is risky, you must tell your sister in advance, so she can assist you with the protective law. Of course, sister, I will find you beforehand. At that moment, the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks, having had their fill of fun, landed and beckoned for their master's massage. With a burst of strength, Liu Yao scrambled out of the car window and began massaging the 3 impatient little treasures. After a brief rest, the trio tirelessly spent 5 hours to reach Lais Hu Port. Lais Hu Port is one of the Shun dynasty's trade ports. With a war against Izumo looming, countless reinforcements and supplies were boarding ships here, transferring to Lushun Port across the strait to support the northern front line. Make way, make way! Squads of government forces carrying rifles jumped down from trucks, donkey carts, horse-drawn carriages, and various other vehicles, pushing aside the civilians in their way and escorting officers to board the ships. Incalculable amounts of grain, cloth, and military equipment were being loaded onto ships by laborers chanting work songs. The Empress Dowager has given the order for a swift victory, and Li Zhongtang has indeed exerted some effort, mobilizing numerous reinforcements and supplies. When Liu Yao and his companions arrived, they were greeted by this bustling scene. He also planned to take a boat from here to Lushun Port. Having had the privilege to visit the Memorial Hall, he remembered the location of that significant naval battle. After disembarking at Lushun Port, walking just a bit further to the east would be perfect for monitoring that area with the drone. Liu Yao had plenty of money and intended to charter a ferry directly. During negotiations to charter the boat, the dock was a chaotic mess, blocking the way. The sisters simultaneously blasted the air, creating a thunderous boom. This was a move only a great martial master with spirit refinement could perform, and it instantly commanded the respect of the whole scene. The crowd obediently parted away, even the soldiers daring not to cause trouble. Liu Yao stepped forward and chose the more newly appeared fairy. The Changjiun. The captain of Changjiun, surnamed Zhou, was also a seasoned businessman frequently traversing the strait. At this moment, the tall man respectfully bowed and said, "Master Liu, Lady Liao, this lowly one will set sail immediately. You three, please rest inside the cabin." The sailors on the boat were also fearfully lowering their heads to the ground, not daring to sneak a peek at the three. Martial artists have a peculiar sensing ability. If they catch someone sneaking glances when in a bad mood, they truly might gouge out that person's eyeballs. Especially after witnessing Liao Ya and Liao Qi lifting a 10-ton cargo truck onto the ship, everyone kept their heads low and dared not utter a sound. Noticing their genuinely frightened demeanor, Liu Yao directly tossed a silver ingot to the captain. "Don't be afraid, we won't hurt people without reason. Here's the fare for the boat, the rest is your tip." Old Captain Zhou hurriedly thanked him. "Thank you for your reward, Master Liu, thank you for your reward." Realizing that Liu Yao was not one of those violent martial artists, the tension on his face eased. Many martial artists, after gaining great power, simply don't view ordinary citizens as humans. In a bad mood, a casual slap could leave someone bedridden for half a year, and even killing someone would at most require paying off with some money. Not to mention gangs like the Heilong Gang, who not only engage in the trade of gambling, drugs, and prostitution, but also in burglary and human trafficking, with an unimaginably low moral bar. Over time, common people try to avoid encountering martial artists as much as possible. Yet, they still yearn for such power and status. The ferry set out to sea under a cloudless, clear sky. Liu Yao curiously observed the other world's ocean for a while, sensing infinite vitality beneath its azure surface. Just then, he suddenly heard a strange chanting, in the year of abundant yang, prosperity and wellness. Turning around, he saw old Captain Zhou leading his crew in the strenuous memorization of the Empress Dowager's birthday blessings. They were illiterate and stumbled through the recital, finding it quite difficult. Liu Yao inquired with curiosity, "Captain Zhou, what are you doing?" The captain complained, "On the Empress Dowager's grand birthday feast on the 10th day of the 10th month, we must face the direction of the imperial city at the third quarter of the noon hour to offer birthday wishes. There will be inspections, and anyone found to be slacking will be charged with great disrespect." Liu Yao asked, "Is this prefectural governor of Leizhou trying to flatter the Empress Dowager?" Old Captain Zhou shook his head, "No, it's a direct order from the imperial court. Every place across the nation must do the same. I don't know what they're stirring up." After chatting for a bit, Liu Yao thought it was just some formality and paid it no mind. But the high-ranking members of sectors with spirit refinement inheritance saw this order. Their expressions were not quite right. Just then, the two sisters on the lookout tower shouted, "Liu Yao, look quickly." Looking towards the horizon, he could vaguely see 10 armored warships. Explore more stories at Empire. Although it was just a brief glimpse, they were definitely ships of the Genhai fleet. Encountering them mid-journey was quite unexpected. Liu Yao was pleased, it seemed his timing couldn't have been better. However, Izumo spies also became aware of this and had already sent the information back. The Izumo fleet had previously deployed in a strategic position, ready and waiting, to intercept the Genhai fleet. Chapter 218. Set sail. The straight line distance between the two sides of the strait is just over 100 kilometers, it took 6 hours to arrive. Lushun port is similarly a port open to trade and has developed quite well. These coastal cities all possess unique vitality and charm. But on Blue Star, this place would face a massacre by the Izumo army in a few days. Future generations could only learn about what happened through pits filled with countless bones and the fragmented words left behind by foreign journalists at the time. The sisters untied the ropes that secured the van and then lifted it off the boat. Before leaving, Liu Yao said to the captain, "If you are free, you can wait for us here for 2 days." The captain nodded hurriedly, "Rest assured, Master Liu, I will certainly wait here for you." Through several hours of observation, the captain grew increasingly respectful towards Liu Yao. After all, the 2 young girls serving him were from the marrow-cleansing realm. What kind of person must he be? After disembarking, the three of them got into the dirt-covered van and drove over 100 kilometers eastward to a place called Green Platform Mountain. Upon reaching the top of the mountain, they could see the ocean, and the terrain was relatively flat. Liu Yao felt this place was good and prepared to have the drones take to the sky. The whole family then got busy. Liao Ya and Liao Qi snapped a tree as thick as a waist, tied it with ropes, and dragged it back and forth on the ground. They turned the already flat ground into a proper runway for the drones to take off from. This runway didn't need to be too long, a little more than 100 meters would suffice. The Rainbow 5 had a very short take-off distance, with a lift-drag ratio of over 25%, which was 40% higher than the already superior performance of a Boeing 737. While the sisters leveled the ground, Liu Yao also began to assemble the drone. With a strength of 6,000 pounds, he screwed bolts in without tools, his fingers twisting them tight and secure. He attached the wings to the fuselage, then mounted the 16 anti-tank missiles onto the composite undercarriage. In just a few minutes, a strange large bird appeared before everyone. Liao Qi touched it curiously and exclaimed excitedly, "Liu Yao, can this metal bird actually fly?" It can also hit people, you'll know soon," Liu Yao replied while setting up an antenna that resembled a flagpole on the roof of the van. With that, the drone was completely assembled. Liu Yao entered the van and started up the control panel. The Rainbow 5 engine ignited instantly, with no fancy movements. It taxied for 100 meters and then soared into the sky. Liao Ya and Liao Qi watched excitedly with their hands shielding their eyes from the sun, as three spiritual sparrowhawks flapped their wings and squawked strangely, seeming quite astounded. The Rainbow 5 drone had a range of 10,000 kilometers and could patrol the skies for 60 hours at an altitude of 10,000 meters. With the satellite, the operational range could reach an astonishing 3,000 kilometers. Liu Yao's version could be considered a significantly weakened one, but it was more than enough to get involved in the Yellow Sea naval battle. Meanwhile, on the Zhenhai fleet's Zaiwan ship, Yu Yanmei stood on the deck, admiring the endless blue beauty. Grandmaster Yu seems to really enjoy the ocean, Captain Deng said with his pet dog beside him, smiling. I was worried you might dislike life at sea. Yu Yanmei replied softly, the ocean has a calming effect on the mind. The boundless blue indeed brought a sense of tranquility, prompting Captain Deng to nod and chant, the floating heavens and distant ocean are vast, the Dharma boat travels light, water reflects the moon's zen silence, fish and dragons listen to the chant of scriptures. As Yu Yanmei savored the zen meaning of the poem, another man approached. The man spoke with a thick American accent, "Happy birthday." He was the Zaiwan ship's first mate. Chen Jingkui. This person was sent to study in America when he was a child, where he lived and studied in Minis for many years, so his temperament was very different from that of ordinary Shunchao people. Captain Deng laughed and said, "Jingkui, what kind of trick are you up to now?" Chen Jingkui replied with a smile, "Happy birthday to you, old birthday star. When we're ashore, I'll treat you to a drink." It was then that Yu Yanmei realized it was Captain Deng's birthday today, August 18th. Captain Deng himself had just remembered and asked with a laugh, "What makes 45 an old birthday star?" His words were interrupted by a loud burst of steam whistle. He turned to look and saw it was the Zhenyuan ship. Friendly forces wouldn't blow their whistles without cause. That must mean. A signalman rushed over and shouted, "The Izumo fleet has been spotted." Captain Deng's expression became calm yet stern, "Prepare for battle." At this moment, the two fleets had set up their formations. The Zhenhai fleet consisted of 10 ships, aside from Dingyuan and Zhenyuan, which were colossal vessels with a displacement of 7,000 tons, the rest were ordinary warships with a displacement of less than 3,000 tons. The Izumo battleship fleet, however, had 12 ships, all main force ships with displacements of 3 to 4,000 tons, making for a more balanced force. Right from the start, the Izumo fleet surrounded the enemy like a pack of wolves. The Zhenhai fleet positioned Dingyuan and Zhenyuan at the center, forming a goosewing formation to meet the enemy. Both sides were playing to their strengths and attacking the enemy's weaknesses, vying for the initiative in the battle and targeting the opposition's vulnerable ships. But the Izumo fleet was the one fully prepared. Led by the flagship Saikyomaru, 4 Izumo battleships commenced their attack from the right flank. Their targets were the weaker Yanggui and Chaoyang ships. The Saikyomaru was a testament to the latest battleship designs, so valued that the emperor would eat only one meal a day if necessary, just to bring it back home. Under its lead, the 4 Izumo battleships fired explosive incendiary bombs in succession. Even if these cannonballs didn't penetrate the armor, they would ignite great fires aboard the ships. The Chaoyang suffered a catastrophic hit, burst into flames and sank. Even to the last second before it sank to the seabed, it continued firing at the enemy ships relentlessly. Furthermore, with Yang Gui severely damaged and forced to retreat, the Izumo fleet had taken out 2 of the Genhai fleet's battleships right at the beginning of the match. The Genhai fleet, not to be outdone, fought back fiercely with high morale, injuring multiple Izumo battleships, yet they didn't manage to sink a single one. The naval battle was far from over. These ships, after quick repairs, would soon rejoin the fight, as if with rejuvenated energy to return to the fray. But at that moment, Liu Yao's Rainbow 5 drone arrived. Amidst the deafening roar of explosions, the exchange was incredibly intense. Occasionally, parts of warships and corpses were blown into the sea by the shockwaves of the cannonballs. The drone flew at an altitude of 8,000 meters, its military-grade cameras captured the entire battlefield at a glance, missing nothing. It didn't take long for Liu Yao to find his first target. A rather showy battleship, the Izumo's main force ship Saikyomaru. This battleship had its turret damaged, the hull breached with 3 holes, taking on water, and it was attempting to leave the battlefield for repair so it could return refreshed for battle. But the friendly forces obviously wouldn't let it get away and continuously fired at it, even launching torpedoes. Seeing the torpedo, with its trail in the water, coming towards them, the first officer and the second officer, already in despair, shouted tragically, "Our lives are over," sure that their ship, already heavily damaged, couldn't withstand another hit. But the captain of Saikyomaru, Ijiro Shikanoya, remained calm and decisive in the critical moment, ordering, "Turn the battleship. Use the waves raised by the hull to change the torpedo's course." The second officer thought it was far-fetched, but in the face of the emergency, they had no choice but to follow orders. And such a desperate move actually worked. Just as the torpedo was about to hit, it was pushed off course by the surge. Cheers erupted in the control cabin. Ijiro Shikanoya also breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his brow. Meanwhile, Liu Yao had already maneuvered the drone to lock onto this battleship that had narrowly escaped death. Chapter 219. Human-headed dog. The blue sword anti-tank missile slung under the drone was actually far from powerful enough to take on a warship. If an anti-tank missile's damage is 200, then these towering steel fortresses on the sea would have at least 20,000 hit points. But the target Liu Yao aimed at, the Saikyomaru, looked formidable but was in fact a merchant ship converted from the Izumo fleet. It had been commandeered before the war and retrofitted with ship cannons to serve as a makeshift cruiser. One could imagine its defensive capabilities, but it was just right as the first target for practice. Liu Yao pressed the lock button on the joystick and then started making fine adjustments using the other 2 small buttons. The locking system of the Rainbow 5 drone first locked onto the general target, then through fine-tuning, decided which part to strike. He targeted the midsection of the ship and pressed the launch button. With a sharp whoosh, a blue sword anti-tank missile fired at a subsonic speed of 300 meters per second, hitting its target with precision. The merchant ship's defenses were simply too weak. The anti-tank missile pierced through the deck and penetrated the ammunition store. The missile's warhead emitted a violent, high-temperature, high-pressure jet of metal, resulting in a blinding, deafening sympathetic detonation. Amidst the massive flames soaring into the sky, the Saikyomaru was like a ham bitten in the middle, its hull with a big hole, slowly sinking into the sea bottom with thick smoke billowing from it. Countless tiny figures screamed in panic, like ants desperately howling, then were sucked into the seabed by the whirlpool created by the sinking ship. After a successful opening move, Liu Yao was quite satisfied and continued to look for the next target. At this moment, he was unaware that on the Saikyomaru he used for practice, there was a very important person. The chief of naval operations of the Izumo, Kiga Yamazaki. It was this man who had masterminded this naval battle, aiming to annihilate the living forces of the Shun dynasty navy and seize control of the seas. To demonstrate his samurai spirit, he boarded the Saikyomaru to supervise the battle. However, he was immediately forced to flee in a panic, frantically calling for reinforcements from allied ships. In Blue Star, this man managed to escape by a fluke, but in the other world, he wasn't so lucky and ended up in the belly of the fish. At this moment, both fleets poured their firepower into each other's flagships, the Ding Yuan and Matsushima. Sinking the enemy's flagship would not just eliminate a huge threat, but also cause the enemy to lose command. But flagships, often the ships with the greatest tonnage and strongest defenses, are not so easily sunk. making the battle fierce. However, the Izumo fleet had gradually completed the encirclement, and the Genhai's decline became evident. Liu Yao had his sights set on the Itsukushima. This warship was one of the 3 scenic battleships designed by the Frandy designer Bai Lao Yi for the Izumo Navy to counter the Ding Yuan and Zhen Yuan of the Genhai Naval Brigade. It was equipped with a 320 mm main cannon for taking on the 356 mm thick iron armor of Ding Yuan and Zhen Yuan. The mouth of the main cannon was so large that a person could crawl inside. When fired, its roar was immense, and it vomited flames and thick smoke that covered much of the ship's body. At this moment, the Itsukushima was furiously unleashing its firepower, having been hit by 8 cannonballs with over 30 casualties. Since vital parts were not damaged, it looked wretched but could still fight. So, Liu Yao went in for the kill. His drone's attack, while limited in damage and ammunition capacity, was a top-down assault that was extremely precise. So Liu Yao had set his strategy early in the morning, using precise top-attack missiles to disable the enemy warship's main guns. Turning them all into toothless snakes, he would then slowly simmer them to submission. At that moment, Liu Yao locked onto the Itsukushima and its 320 mm main gun turret, firing a missile. An anti-tank missile, trailing flames, hit the turret with unerring accuracy. The turret armor was a hefty 300 mm, but the anti-tank missile from Xia country could penetrate 1,400 mm. A high-temperature, high-pressure jet of metal instantly burned through the turret, and, along with glowing hot shrapnel, sprayed into the interior of the turret. Not only were the people inside burned alive with agonizing screams, but the stacked cannonballs also exploded. Some bone-tempering realm loaders liked to keep cannonballs nearby for convenience, a habit that led to dire consequences. A dazzling explosion was first seen, followed by a deafening roar. This 320 mm main gun, which could fit a grown man and was over 10 meters long, was lifted into the air by the violent shockwave, and then smashed back down with its 36-ton weight into the deck. The boiler room below the deck was suddenly pierced by the falling massive barrel, and 20 crew members including the chief engineer were instantly crushed into a pulp. As the collapsed boiler caused a fire within the ship, the second officer hurriedly led people to make repairs. Liu Yao, operating a drone, aimed at the breach caused by the main gun's impact, and fired another missile. This act of twisting the knife in the wound yielded splendid results. A muffled explosion was heard as the Itsukushima's main steam engine was destroyed. From there, the fire inside the ship grew larger, and all able-bodied sailors rushed to put it out, because the flames were threatening to reach the torpedo chamber. At this time, the Ding Yuan noticed something was amiss with its little brother, and its twin 305 mm cannons swiveled to aim their muzzles in that direction. The spirit-refining gunners entered a calm state, firing in unison. 2 400-kilogram cannonballs slammed into the Itsukushima, becoming the final straw that broke the camel's back. The Itsukushima suffered a sequence of internal explosions after the hits, each blast tearing several large holes in the vessel from the inside out, and the sea water poured in immediately. This flagship of the Izumo Navy, one of the 3 scenic battleships, slowly sank amidst cries of panic and horror. The survivors on the ship revealed their divine skills as they fled toward friendly warships. A figure sprinted over the sea, covering a distance of 5 kilometers at high speed, and boarded the Yoshino. This was a middle-aged man wearing feathers on his back and carrying a katana. His method of sword carrying marked him as a ninja, and the technique of gliding over water was undoubtedly of the innate realm. Those who couldn't be rescued in time could only struggle desperately in the water, where large, exaggerated fins approached. It was the megalodons. Stimulated by the bloody scent of the castaways, they overcame their aversion to the loud noise of the guns and rushed in for a feast. Although a friendly had stolen his kill, Liu Yao didn't mind at all and continued to operate the drone, looking for the next target. But soon after, the Ding Yuan, which had stolen the kill, suffered a disaster. A spirit-refining gunner from the Izumo flagship Yoshino took this opportunity to strike the Ding Yuan beneath its hull plating with a 203 mm main gun, igniting a large fire inside the ship. The explosive incendiary shells from Izumo were extremely fierce once they caught fire, spreading rapidly. In no time, the whole warship was engulfed in flames. The warships of Izumo, overjoyed, all fiercely attacked together, hoping to sink the Ding Yuan. As the flagship of our forces, the sinking of the Ding Yuan would be an unimaginable loss. At the critical moment, the Zaiwan sailed forward, positioning itself in front of the flagship to shield it from the bombardment. It also bought time for the fire on the Ding Yuan to be extinguished. Chapter 220 Subsonic weapon disadvantages. Bearing 14, deviation 39, fire. The Zaiwan shielded their flagship, the Ding Yuan, taking all the attacks while also constantly retaliating. At that moment, Yu Yanmei stood on the trembling deck, with various calibers of cannonballs constantly flying past her. These were all naval artillery shells, even the lightest weighing nearly 100 kilograms. Compared to naval guns, army artillery was like comparing fingers to bananas in size, not to mention the power difference. The crew, including Captain Deng, were all soaked with seawater, and these shells, plunging into the sea, would raise waves tens of meters high. Some were struck by cannonballs while walking and burst into a mist of blood, others exploded on the deck, the violent shockwaves reducing countless parts and bodies to indistinguishable fragments. But the people on this ship were still fighting desperately. Some were hauling cannonballs, others were putting out the fires that had started on the ship, in a panicked yet orderly fashion. Because the commander of the battleship, Captain Deng, stood there calmly, unshakably in place. Just then, a shell exploded not far away. Yu Yanmei moved swiftly, brandishing her sword, and a stream of sparks rang out as countless fragments were deflected. Yu Yanmei sheathed her sword, her tone indifferent as she asked, "Aren't you afraid of death? And these ordinary people, aren't they afraid of dying either?" Captain Deng replied calmly, "Who does not die? I only wish to die a worthy death." No sooner had he spoken than several shells hit the ship, tearing huge gaps in the hull with a grating, shrill noise. Water quickly flooded in, tilting the entire battleship. The Zaiwan was surrounded and attacked by a group of ships, and it was already reaching its limits. Meanwhile, Commander Chen Jingkui, with a horrible expression on his face, reported, "We've run out of cannonballs." At this moment, with their flagship Ding Yuan too busy putting out its own fires to help, the Izumo fleet had completed its encirclement, achieving its tactical objective. The Genhai fleet, without coordination and each fighting on their own, was even more embarrassingly close to running out of cannonballs. From high above, Liu Yao watched everything with crystal clarity and decided to prioritize attacking the most impressive ship of the Izumo fleet. The Yoshino. It was the latest model battleship, just launched, with a very fast firing rate, single-handedly responsible for almost 40% of the enemy's firepower, and it was the core C position on the enemy side. Liu Yao targeted the midsection's gun turret of the ship and fired a missile. The Blue Sword anti-tank missile used by the drone was highly accurate, powerful, and had an impressive range of up to 8 kilometers. This allowed the drone to strike from high altitude, letting Liu Yao stay comfortably shrouded in the clouds like a sly old fox, unnoticed until now. But there was a huge drawback to anti-tank missiles. They were slow. With a speed of only 300 meters per second. After all, they were designed for targeting tanks, not aircraft. From appearing to hitting the target, high-level martial artists had at least 3 seconds to react. On the Yoshino, an innate expert noticed something was amiss. He wore a feathered garment and carried a katana, and was none other than Munkata Kotaro, who had fled over the water after the sinking of the Itsukushima. It was he who had discovered the Genhai fleet's departure, allowing the Izumo fleet to deploy preemptively in a favorable position, waiting at ease. At that moment, Munkata Kotaro looked up at the sky, confused, "What the hell is that?" As he spoke, he dodged and drew his sword, becoming a dark shadow that swept past the missile, causing it to disintegrate in mid-air. Fortunately, the distance was too far, and he didn't notice the drone hidden in the high clouds, but from then on, he remained alert to the skies. Liu Yao's expression tightened. Subsonic weapons, they're too slow for high-level martial artists. There were only 16 missiles left. Although there were more in the car, a round trip would take over half an hour, and the situation was already tricky. Who knew what might happen before he could return? If the Genhai fleet fell, his drone would soon be discovered, and in this extraordinary world, that would certainly lead to unpleasant consequences. And just at that moment, Liu Yao suddenly discovered. There was a friendly warship, billowing thick smoke and listing due to flooding, breaking away from the formation and charging towards the Yoshino. This is the Zaiwan ship. Witnessing this most heroic moment in modern naval history, Liu Yao gritted his teeth and locked onto the Yoshino again. But this time he set up a simultaneous launch of 4 missiles, each targeting the main guns at the bow and stern. These cannons were the latest rapid-fire types, and were even equipped with automatic cannon aiming devices, the biggest threat on the Yoshino. After taking careful aim in the spirit refinement realm, he pressed the launch button, and 4 missiles shot out with their tails ablaze. At this point, the Zaiwan ship was out of ammunition and food and severely damaged. Its hull was riddled with holes from enemy fire, leaking and listing, while big flames and billowing smoke arose from it. "We've run out of cannonballs and torpedoes." Captain Deng, his face blackened with soot, looked at the loyal subordinates who had followed him for many years and shouted. "We, who serve in the military to protect our country, have long disregarded life and death. Now, all that is left is to die." Then he pointed at the Yoshino and screamed, "The enemy relies on the Yoshino heavily. If we sink this ship, it will be enough to break their spirit and turn the tide." With that said, he resolutely steered the ship at full speed towards the right side of the Yoshino, determined to take the enemy down with him. Captain Deng had already cast aside his own life and death, only giving Yu Yanmei a look filled with an apology. Yu Yanmei, however, showed no sign of fear on her face, her gaze fixated on the Yoshino, especially on the innate expert capable of slashing down missiles. Munkata Kotaro. Seeing the adversary full throttle ahead for a collision, the captain of the Yoshino, Kawahara Yuichi, instantly paled with fright. "Quick! Fire the cannons! Sink it!" The crew immediately concentrated their fire on the Zaiwan ship. These crewmen's faces were covered with soot, and their heads were tied with bands inscribed with certain victory. Their will to live and will to win fully unleashed their potential, and they furiously loaded and fired the cannons at the fastest speed they could manage. The already heavily damaged Zaiwan ship was hit repeatedly, and as seawater poured in, the ship listed nearly 30 degrees to the side. At this rate, it would soon be sunk and unable to accomplish its mission of mutual destruction with the enemy. Munkata Kotaro, seeing this, breathed a sigh of relief and began to be vigilant of attacks from high above. At that moment, the 4 anti-tank missiles Liu Yao had launched came crashing down. Did Jihad sell new weapons to the Shun dynasty again? Munkata Kotaro was about to intercept, but suddenly felt a chill run down his spine and turned to meet a cold gaze. "It's the Grand Master from the Genhai fleet sitting in fortification. Yu Yanmei." The Jinio Society, having bribed someone in the military affairs of the Shun dynasty, naturally knew about Yu Yanmei. In the other world, the battles between martial artists were life and death in an instant. Munkata Kotaro immediately focused all his energy on the formidable enemy and could no longer care about the missiles. The 4 missiles accurately hit their targets, and the high-temperature, high-pressure metal jets penetrated the turrets, along with the red-hot, broken metal fragments, spraying into the insides of the turrets. Like pouring molten iron into an ant nest, the people inside screamed in agony, and an organ-refining realm officer, his body aflame, jumped into the sea. However, this most advanced warship was equipped with the latest ammunition racks, which protected the ammunition well and prevented it from exploding. The same was true for the other 3 targets. But all 4 main cannons were now inoperable, and that was enough. Without the obstruction of cannon fire, the Zaiwan ship had already charged close.